And call the Senate to order. Sergeant Arms will please secure the chamber doors. Members, please take your seats. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. President.
All right, Senators, this morning we are very pleased, all the way from the Eastern Shore, took the bridge this morning. We have Reverend Mark Piedmont of Buckingham Presbyterian Church in Berlin, Maryland, guest of the distinguished senator from the 38th District. Please rise for the invocation.
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning. Let me first thank Senator Carrozza for inviting me to be here today. Thank you to Nick Garrett for helping me to find a place, and Molly as well. And thank you all for inviting me to come and offer prayer. I invite you to first just take a few deep breaths to center ourselves, and let us pray. Holy Spirit of life, love, community, and justice, you call us all to support the weak, to help those who suffer, to make a way for those on the margins, and to honor all people. By your power, make us advocates for your justice and instruments of your peace. Keep us all working and praying for the day when your justice will roll down upon us like a never-ending stream of righteousness. Bless our Maryland state senators today. Keep them healthy, strong, and safe as they endeavor to fulfill their responsibilities. Help them to not ask first, how do we fix this, or whom must we please, but instead to ask, what do we need to learn? To whom do we need to listen? And how might we need to change? May they indeed, may we all heed the words of the Apostle Paul, who wrote in his letter to the Philippians, do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of the others. Help them, help us all, to keep our focus and motivation, those things which in the same letter Paul calls true, noble, reputable, authentic, compelling, and gracious, the best, not the worst, the beautiful, not the ugly, things to praise, not things to curse. In doing so, help them help all our leaders in local, state, and national government. Indeed, help all citizens of this blessed nation to trust that the Holy Spirit of life, love, community, and justice, the Spirit who binds us and guides us, will take our work and make it into a vision of America in which all have a truly free and blessed life and have it abundantly. May it be so today. Amen. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 38th District.
Thank you, Mr. President. And we are indeed blessed, a prayer of thanksgiving, in that Reverend Piedmont was on the Bay Bridge, and we weren't sure if he was going to make it here, and he has been delivered. I just want to highlight that Reverend Piedmont is the pastor at Buckingham Presbyterian Church in historic Berlin, Maryland, and this is the third oldest Presbyterian church in the country. And also would like to highlight his good work not only with the church, but he is a vice president of the Worcester Youth and Counseling Services in Berlin, which does so much good for not only Berlin and Worcester County, but the Shore community. Welcome, and I'd like to journalize the Reverend's prayer.
Thank you, Senator, and without objection, we will most certainly journalize the Reverend's prayer this morning and thank him for making it across the bridge safely and appreciate him being here. All right, as everyone recorded their presence in the chamber, it appears so. The clerk will take the call. With 42 members in the chamber and a quorum being present, the Senate of Maryland is now in session. Senators, let's start with introductions. Any introductions today? Yes. Oh, we have resolutions today. I did not. Okay. Senator from District 1. Do we have a resolution today? Yes, sir. All right.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would you like me to read it, or?
If you want to introduce the
Yes,
issue.
it's a privilege and an honor to introduce the Groves family. They are being honored today as the 2023 Maryland State Tree Farmer of the Year. They hail from District 1. Colleagues, let's give them a warm congratulations, please.
Excellent. The clerk will read the resolution.
Be it hereby known to all, the Senate of Maryland offers its sincerest congratulations to the Groves family in recognition of being honored as the 2023 Maryland State Tree Farmer of the Year. Thank you for your outstanding dedication in protecting the trees, forests, and natural beauty of our state. The entire membership extends its best wishes on this memorable occasion and directs this resolution be presented on this 5th day of April, 2023.
The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? I think we may want to have a, yep, there we go. Excellent. Clerk will take the call. To the Groves family, the entire Senate of Maryland unanimously celebrates your excellent work to be the 2023 Maryland State Tree Farmers of the Year on this Arbor Day. We thank you for your work and congratulate you for your great services. Thank you. Congratulations. The beauty of Maryland. We have our Reverend from the Eastern Shore. We've got our farmers from Western Maryland. We're grateful for their work. While we're waiting for one of our senators, let's go ahead and hear from the senator from the 27th District.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, please help the Prince George's County Senate delegation welcome members of the Prince George's County Central Committee. I believe that they are behind us. They will be hanging out with us most of the day here in Annapolis. So please welcome the Prince George's County Central Committee.
Welcome to the Central Committee. Welcome, welcome. We're pleased that you all could join us today. Hope you enjoy your stay on this busy Passover final week. It's going to be great. Chair recognizes the senator from St. Mary's.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Colleagues, if we could give a warm Senate welcome to one of my interns, John Paul LaValle, and he has his parents, Lisa and Fernandale. They're sitting behind you.
Wonderful. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for your work for the senator. Greatly appreciate it. All right. Do we have any estimate on the time?
Mr. President.
Okay. Chair recognizes the co-chair of the Protocol Committee.
Well, I believe Senator Hershey has an introduction to make. He's not able to be here this morning,
Right.
so
Okay.
I'm going to stand
Perfect.
in his shoes for
Perfect.
that.
Let's go ahead and if we could bring the team in.
This will be my first introduction, so let me know when it's time.
Okay, well, it'll be just a half second. Once we get them. All right. Another Eastern Shore crew. Kent Island folks. All right, Senator, may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. And on behalf of Senator Hershey, it is a great honor. And then, body, I'd see if we can make a little noise and congratulations and recognition and support. This morning, we're joined with the 2022 2A student athlete state lacrosse champions from Kent Island High School. These are the Bucks from Kent Island High School. They're the 2A lacrosse champions for 2022. They're headed up by Coach Robert Woolley. It's great to have you here. Congratulations. These are student athletes and our future standing before us. Excellent. Congratulations.
The clerk will read the resolution in full.
Be it hereby known to all, the Senate of Maryland offers its sincerest congratulations to Kent Island High School boys lacrosse team in recognition of winning the 2A Maryland State Boys 2022 Lacrosse Championship. We applaud your outstanding season and wish you many more. The entire membership extends its best wishes on this memorable occasion and directs this resolution be presented on this 5th day of April, 2023.
The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? If so, the clerk will take the call. To the gentlemen of the team and the coaches and administrators of Kent Island High School boys lacrosse team, congratulations on your 2A Maryland State Boys 2022 Lacrosse Championship. Well done. Keep it up. Anyone playing at Maryland next year? Any Maryland Terps playing? No? Maybe? Yeah? All right. Big year this year. Very good. Thank you all. Pleased to have you all here. All right. Any further introductions? Any further introductions? No? Any order before we, yes, Chair, can I center from the 37th?
On behalf of the Protocol Committee, we'll get the morning going with some good news. We are celebrating the birthday of one of our colleagues. Permission to use the senator's name.
Senator may proceed.
Today we are celebrating the birthday for Senator Bill Folden. Let's join together and recognize
happy birthday.
this momentous occasion.
Happy birthday. Exactly where he wants to be. Wouldn't want to be any other place. Yes, Chair recognizes the minority whip.
Mr. President, I wanted to take a moment, and I hope I'm not stealing anybody else's thunder. There was a terrible wildfire in western Baltimore, affecting western Baltimore County, parts of eastern Carroll County. So it was impacted District 10, District 5, and District 42 in some way out in western. I think it was centered in sort of the rural Owings Mills and Reisterstown area, but it ended up impacting all of our communities. We had about 8 or 9 different fire companies from the 3 different districts responding last night. As far as I know, no one was injured, thankfully. It was in an area that were very few homes, and it seems like everybody's okay. But I just wanted to thank all of our first responders for responding to that. And thankfully, there was a couple of people missing at some point, but they were found, and everybody's good. So I just wanted to thank all the folks that were working hard last night to respond to that event.
Thank you. I did not see it. No, appreciate that. Had not seen notice of that. Thanks for bringing that to our attention. That is awful. But good that everything worked out. All right. Any further business before we jump into work today? If not, so we consider the reading of the journal from the prior legislative day. Let's just go through some of the messages. We have a message from the House. These are yeas and nays. Clerk will read the first report.
Senate Bill number 7, Central West Environment On-Site Wastewater Services Board.
All right, Majority
Fees and
Leader
penalties.
moves shall be considered the reading of the bills. We've got some, oh, look at that. We've got an important calendar here. A message from the House, number 35. Clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 201, the Speaker, Maryland Consolidated Capital Bond Loan of 2023, Budget and Taxation.
Majority
House
Leader
Bill-
moves shall be considered the reading of the bills, but we've found it. The capital budget has arrived. It's 86 days. We got it. Off we go. All right. Bills will be referred to the Rules Committee. Let's go ahead and jump into the layover bill calendar. This is calendar number 34. Clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 260, Senator West, Maryland Paint Stewardship. Question is on the adoption of the 3 committee amendments and the favorable report.
All right, Senators, the question is on the 3 committee amendments. Question on the amendments? Any discussion on the committee amendments? Any discussion on the committee amendments? Any objection? Without objection, the 3 committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the favorable committee report as amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Senator from, or the Minority Whip has an amendment. Pages will collect and distribute the senator's amendment. And again, folks, if there is a amendment, if senators are not paying attention, please just drop the amendment on the senator's desk. All right. All right, Senator may explain the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wonder if I could ask the floor leader to yield for a question to clarify why the amendment is in my view, is necessary.
Will the floor to you? Sarah may proceed.
Unless this is going to be a friendly amendment, which I think it's very friendly.
I'm afraid not. You're friendly, but the amendment is not.
Thank you very
Senator.
much. Okay. All right. Well, thank you. So just a question for you. So this is establishing this overall bill is establishing a paint stewardship program. Right now, paint is already recyclable, correct?
Hypothetically, if it's deposited in a place where it can be recycled.
Do
But
our
most
county-
of it does not.
Do our counties have recycling programs that allow them to recycle paint?
Counties spend a lot of money, and mostly it ends up in the landfill. Some of it ends up in our waterways. It's thrown down our sewers. It's thrown in the trash, but still wet. It hasn't been dried out. Paint is a challenge, and yet both the paint inside and the paint cans can be recycled, but in most cases it is not.
This bill is setting up basically a system where we're going to fund private organizations to run paint recycling programs, correct?
This bill will set up a paint care system. It's a nonprofit organization that will work closely with the Maryland Department of the Environment, will collect funds, but not too much. It will be audited every year to make sure they're not collecting too much. And with that funding, they will be able to gather it and deposit it in a way that it will be recycled.
These nonprofit organizations, are they quasi-governmental or they're fully nonprofit?
They are 501c3s, and that's the way it's worked in 11 other jurisdictions.
And who operates those nonprofits? Like who decides who gets to operate those nonprofits?
It is set up as a result of this bill in conjunction with the Maryland Department of the Environment.
So the Maryland Department of Environment sets up the 501c3?
I'm not entirely sure of exactly how it's set up, but it has been set up in, as I said, 11 other jurisdictions, and it will be a C3.
Okay.
And it's accountable every year to be audited.
I think in the bill, the MDE that'll be part of the regulatory process, is setting up how that'll be implemented. Okay.
Exactly.
Is recycled paint valuable to the companies that produce paint?
Recycled paint is valuable for our environment
Right.
because it removes stuff that's otherwise in our landfill. You know that about 90% of paint is not recycled and ends up in our landfill. Over 800 million gallons each year that go unused and wasted.
So for companies, though, if they were able to capture paint, if someone was able to, because the goal of this, as I remember from the past, was to have there be a system where people could come back into a store, like a chain or a smaller paint store, and be able to drop off their old paint, correct?
So let me be clear. So sometimes the place where you bought the paint, the Lowe's, the Joe's Hardware, the wherever, will be a depository location also. In some places it won't be, but 90% of households in Maryland will have a depository location within 15 miles of their home. For construction, for contractors who deal with greater volume, there will be a pickup option, so they're not schlepping tons of paint cans in their trucks or cars to try to take it in.
So the 501c3 that is operating something in their area would set up a system where you could sign up, I guess, to have someone come from the organization to pick up paint at a work site, let's say? Or
If you're a contractor,
If you're a
but not
contractor.
for you and me.
No, I understand. Well, it makes sense. But that will help with not shipping. No, that's good. But it is true, correct, that the companies that participate, number one, you won't be able to sell paint in the state unless you participate in this program, correct?
Let me just be clear, this is about depositing paint. So if you have paint cans in your basement right now, as most of us probably do, that's not covered by this bill, and you can still take it to a depository. You won't pay anything, and it will be recycled. It will be reused.
Oh, correct. I'm more thinking about on the other end of it, where a company, I think in the bill it's saying if a paint producer is going to produce paint to sell in Maryland, they have to participate in this program.
186 paint companies already do participate, and it's already working in 11 other jurisdictions,
Understood.
as I said. So, yes.
Understood. Okay. And then the bill requires that they add the price of the program into the cost of their production, which I don't have an issue with
Not
that.
the cost of their production, at the sales point, yes.
Well, so on page 10 of the bill,
It's passed through to the customer.
Okay, yeah.
Yes,
But it does say a producer or retailer.
yes.
Let me be clearer
Yeah.
than I said before. A producer or retailer may not sell or offer a brand of paint to any person in the state unless the producer or a representative organization of the producer is a member. Actually, it says is implementing an approved paint stewardship program. So you'd have to be a part of this to sell. You'd have to be no paint company or paint producer can sell if they're not a member of this involved in this.
If we pass and enact this law, yes.
Right, okay. And then the producer shall add the paint, on page 10, line 6, the producer shall add the paint stewardship assessment established. They must add the assessment under the stewardship program to the cost of all architectural paint. So that's correct also. They actually have to add that cost. They would probably want to, since it's going to cost them something, I assume. But they have to add that, correct? And then the next part of the bill, line 10 through 12 on page 10, each retailer or distributor shall add a paint stewardship, a retailer shall add an additional assessment to the purchase price. So we're actually requiring 2 assessments in the bill. The bill, I say I know it's not your bill specifically, but
No. So just to be
am
clear.
I explaining that right, or am I not explaining that right?
I think that's not quite right. There is only one assessment, and it's just a good analogy, Senator, is our tire fee. If you don't have a car, or your car doesn't need new tires, you're not paying the buck to make sure that we are disposing of our
Right.
tires in a safe and environmentally responsible way. In the same way, if you don't own a house or you're not painting your living room, then you won't be paying this fee. It's a user fee, and it's really modest, and it makes a difference.
I understand, but the way the bill is written, because the tire fee is a great analogy, I know that's the goal here, but the way the bill is written, as I read it, the producer shall add an assessment, and then each retailer or distributor shall add an assessment as well to the purchase. The one talks about adding an assessment to the cost, and then it says, the next lines 10 through 12, each retailer shall add a stewardship assessment to the purchase price. So to me, I look at it as you're requiring in the bill that there be an assessment added at the cost level. I'm assuming that, I don't know if this would be the official legal term, but the wholesale level.
Senator, you said page 10? I
Page
just
10
wanna
of
make sure I'm with
reprint.
you. Yes.
Lines 6 through 9 talks about what the producer shall add, and then lines 10 through 12 talk about what the retailer or distributor shall add. So to me, that looks like you're going to add to the producer has to add to the price of the paint, which I would understand why they would actually want to, but it says they have to.
Okay, so let's be clear. There's only one assessment, and it is overseen by MD, the Maryland Department of the Environment. It's approved, and it's incorporated in the whole plan. And again, there's an annual audit, and in 2 states, in 2 of the 11 jurisdictions recently, it turns out that the fee was gathering more than the expenditures, and so they actually lowered the fee.
And that's good. I see that it's in the bill, and that's a good thing. I think where I'm going with this is a concern about sort of adding a double fee.
There's no double fee, Senator. One-time fee.
Well, who pays it? Is it the producer level, or is it at the retailer level?
We pay it when we're painting our living room. When we're buying a $40, gallon of paint, we'll be paying about an extra 70 cents.
Okay.
It's modest, Senator.
Okay. So thank you for the answers. So just one final question to drill back down, not about the fee, because it goes to the amendment. And thank you for your understanding, Mr. President, as I move forward here. I think it's important to note that this bill will allow the paint companies to get the recycled material. Correct?
Bill will say that one more time, please.
This bill will, if you're participating in this program, the paint companies, the producers, they will be able to get the recycled materials and reuse it, is how I read the bill.
The recycling and reusing of the materials is the reason that we're doing it. There are a couple of reasons why we're doing it. One is to get this stuff out of the landfill and out of our waterways and out of our trash cans where they spill and make a mess in our communities. We also save all of our counties the cost of dealing with these discarded paint cans. And then the cans themselves can be reused. I don't think we're taking them back. The can isn't going back after it's been recycled and returned to Sherwin-Williams. But that is, and then the paint is also able to be reused.
Okay. Thank you for your answers and discussion. Mr. President, I have the amendment that I have before I offer, and I'm going to offer in a second. But the amendment I have, I do think it's important to point out the companies that participate in this program, they're going to get to add an assessment to cover the cost, which is fine. The bill also then, it requires the producers, the corporations, the companies to add an assessment, and then it requires the retailer to also assess at the point of sale an assessment. Whereas with the tire fund, you pay a tire fee to dispose of your tires, which is fair. But I don't believe we have a requirement in law that the tire company also adds an assessment. So that's number one. Number two, the companies we do want to recycle. I think recycling is great. I recycle. They just picked up my recycling this morning. And I know you can't throw your paint cans into the recycling thing, but you can go to places to recycle the paint. The companies will benefit from this because they will get the recycled materials back. So they'll benefit from this program. They'll be able to reuse these recycled materials. That's clear in the bill. And that's fine. We want them to reuse it, but we're asking users, consumers, to pay twice. It looks to me, the way I read the bill, we're asking consumers to pay twice to then give the recycled materials to the companies that they will benefit from, which is, great work if you can get it, but I don't think that's the best way to structure this. So my amendment, Mr. President, would simply, on page 10 of the reprint, lines 6 through 9, instead of saying a producer shall add, it's going to make that a may. They may add. I think they're going to want to. But I think it should be a may. And then number two, it's just the other part of the amendment is it strikes the language in lines 10 through 12. Each retailer or distributor shall add a paint stewardship assessment to the purchase price. So what my amendment would do was say you're not going to get an extra sales tax on your paint. Instead, the producers may add an assessment to cover the cost of administering the program. But you're not going to pay twice. So they may add it, and they can if they want to, which I think is fair because it's a program they have to administer. But they are getting the benefit. They are getting the benefit of the recycled materials, and we're getting the benefit of the materials being recycled. I totally agree. But I don't think you should have two fees in here. So this would say that the producers may, number one, they may add this assessment instead of shall, gives them flexibility. Number two, it gets rid of the additional sales tax on paint. So, Mr. President, I would move the amendment, and if it's going to be resisted, I would ask for a roll call.
Thank you, Senator. Let's hear from the floor leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Colleagues, I just want to be clear, this is not a tax, which is what the good senator from District 5 has called it a couple of times. It's a fee. It's a user fee. It's not assessed on everyone. It is just for those who are buying paint. Second, it is a one-time fee. There is a cost of the recycling, of the collection, of all of the processes that goes into this. And again, it's assessed and audited every single year to make sure that there is not an excess of a very modest fee that is collected by this independent nonprofit overseen by the Maryland Department of the Environment. This amendment, while I'm sure it is well-intentioned, guts the bill, and I would ask my colleagues to resist it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. Chair recognizes the Senator from Baltimore County on the amendment.
Thank you very much. If the floor meter could ask.
The floor to yield. Senator may proceed.
Just, I'm trying to get my mind wrapped around what this bill does. So in Baltimore County, when you have paint, you can take it to landfills where they dispose of hazardous waste. So what happens? Are Baltimore County residents still going to be subject to this disposal fee?
Baltimore County residents would have a place within 15 miles of their home and maybe at the place where they purchase the paint, because frankly it's in the store's best interest. If you buy your paint from Lowe's and they are taking it back, while you're there you might buy some more other stuff. So repeat traffic would be in their economic interest potentially. But whether or not the store does, there will be a convenient location, and rather than going into the landfill as hazardous waste, it will be recycled for a very modest fee, and again, overseen each year by the Maryland Department of the Environment, who would assess how it's going.
So even if we take our paint to the landfill, we're still going to end up having to pay this fee if we don't use the service.
So
At
think
the
about I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, at one of these locations that has this program, we would still end up having to pay?
So think about a bottle bill, which we don't have in Maryland, but you may pay a nickel on a can of soda. You get the nickel back if you take it back to a place where they give you your nickel back or whatever it is at that place. You can still throw it in a trash can or throw it in your own recycling bin, but you get the money back. Now, the imperfect analogy is you don't get the money back, but you've already, in this one, but you've already paid it. And it's because we want people to recycle the paint and the paint cans, and we don't want the hazardous materials in our landfill and in our communities.
So just to be clear, are local governments who are accepting this paint, are they not recycling across the state?
Sorry, they're not recycling across the state. Correct.
So you're saying that they take them and then we just dump it?
Yes.
Is that accurate for the entire state?
That is my understanding, and that's why the numbers in the landfills are shocking. So it takes up a lot of space. Another thing that this amendment does is remove transparency. It's a real key aspect of the bill. Again, the accountability based on the annual audits. All of those numbers are public, so we can make sure that folks aren't being overcharged. Even though it really is a very modest fee, there's still accountability. And so it is a win-win-win. It saves our local governments money, it causes folks to recycle, and it's a really modest user fee for our constituents.
And I was looking at the committee testimony and trying to get an idea where Baltimore County was. Are there local governments that are asking for this?
No, it really is initiated by the paint industry, which wants to do the right thing. And it's, again, as I said earlier, it's being done in 11 other states, 11 other jurisdictions, and has been working very successfully. It first started in Oregon, where it's been happening since, I think, 1990. Let me look. But it's happening, Oregon since 2010, 13 years, and very successfully there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
All right. On the amendment, Chair recognizes the senator from the 42nd District.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to just make 2 points in support of my bill. First to the senator from Carroll County, then to the senator from Baltimore County. For the senator from Carroll County, the bill specifically provides that at periodic intervals, the paint manufacturers and this nonprofit organization shall submit a plan to the Maryland Department of the Environment for approval. And on page 8 of 12, it states the total amount of the paint stewardship assessment may not exceed the costs of implementing and sustaining the paint stewardship program. So no one's going to make money on this. The bottom line is all the money that's being paid will go to pay for the cost of the program. So getting into the details of how the assessments work is interesting, but bottom line, all the money from that assessment is going to pay for the program, and no one is going to make money off of this deal. Now, to respond to my colleague from Baltimore County, yes, currently in Baltimore County, you can take your paint to the landfill. But think how much paint goes to the landfill. It's not just your 2 or 3 gallons of paint. It's thousands and thousands of people in Baltimore County taking their paint to the landfill. And that paint gets dumped in the landfill. It's got toxic chemicals in it. Do we really want our landfills filled with toxic chemicals? Under this program, the paint is going to be responsibly recycled, not in a landfill, but recycled. So the paint can be reused in the form of new paint, and the cans can be reused in the form of new cans. That's why this bill is important. Thank you.
All right. On the amendment, Chair recognizes the senator from District 6 on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in support of the amendment. I think it's a reasonable amendment, first of all. And just to comment on the last remarks, I have gone to the landfill more than once. They do have areas where people need to be responsible with their oils, with their paint. I think we have a lot of very good stewards in the state of Maryland that do the right thing. They might be a couple of bad actors here and there, which should be held accountable. But I think overall, I think we do have good stewards in Maryland that I see firsthand when I do go to Habitat Humanity, Home Depot, Lowe's, that they do have other reserves there where people do bring in their paint. And I know personally I do that. So again, I think we have good stewards. I think we have good people that are very responsible. and that's why I think it shouldn't be enforced or put in place for fees, and that's why I believe it should be made, Mr. President, and I'm going to support this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Are any senators who have not yet spoken wish to speak? If not, Chair recognizes the maker of the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I think just to respond to a couple things before we vote. One, I don't see how the amendment removes transparency. I'm removing language that talks about the that takes a shall to a may and gets rid of a requirement that it be passed down directly to consumers in the form of a point of sale fee, if we don't want to call it a tax. It's a fee. It's a user fee. I get that, but it is passed down twice in the bill. So trying to fix that. It doesn't remove any of the transparency of the reporting. I agree the reporting is a good thing in the bill. Number two, talking about the industry all supports it. So you're telling me what we're seeing is these corporations have come in and said, we want to do the right thing, and we want the consumers to pay for it, which, you know, again, it's paying for the program. I get we have to assess things that people have to access. What I'm trying to do with this amendment is, number one, we acknowledge that they will financially benefit. The industry will financially benefit from doing this. I'm not saying they necessarily shouldn't, because it's doing the right thing and we want them to recycle, so it's not bad, but they will financially benefit from doing this. I don't believe they should be people should be double feed, if we want to call it that. I don't believe people should be double feed for it. So all my amendment does is just says that the producers may pass it down, that they may add it to the cost, and it gets rid of the requirement that retailers add a point of sale cost, which is also a burden, particularly on our smaller retailers. So, Mr. President, I would press the amendment and ask for the body's support.
All right. I think we generally know the issue, but let's hear from the floor leader one last time.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just two quick fact checks for the good senators from District 6 and District 5. Yes, Senator, I agree that most Marylanders are good stewards, but even for those residents who are dutifully bringing their used paint to the hazardous waste section of the dump, currently and without this bill, it ends up in the landfill, and it is toxic chemicals going into the landfill, so neither the paint nor the can is recycled, even if they are being good stewards. And to the sponsor of the amendment, I just want to reiterate, there is no double fee, and his amendment removes the transparency because it would allow the paint retailers to just add the 70 cents to the price, and folks wouldn't know about it, and then there would not be accountability. So again, resisting the amendment. Thank you.
All right. On the issue, Chair recognizes the senator from the 31st District.
Yeah, if the
on the amendment, sorry.
Floor leader would yield.
Floor leader yield. Senator may proceed.
Sure.
Talking about the fee and so forth, just a higher level. We in the committee this session just passed policy on a bill that put the onus on the manufacturer for recycling, and I supported that. This seems to be taking a different approach, saying we're going to have the consumer pay that fee. And it just seems that those are two different approaches. And I guess the question is, why in one industry are we saying the consumer has to pay for it, and the new approach says the manufacturer should do it? So if you could kind of explain where we're going policy-wise and why we've decided to do two different approaches.
Thank you, Senator. I'll give you two quick answers. One is different fees work differently. Our 911 fee is paid by, I have to go 911, right? By people who have their telephones and add it that way. The tire fee is people who have tires, who have vehicles with tires. And those are both paid by the user and not by the manufacturer or the supplier. The other piece that I wanted to point out for colleagues, one of the amendments put on by the good senator from District 9 requires the Maryland Department of the Environment to circle back and review this program in 2027. And so if there is a new system, if there is a best practice, if there is a method that is being used in other states, we'll have the formal opportunity to look at it, evaluate it, and make changes. And that's on top of the annual audits to make sure that we're not overcharging our folks. Thank you.
All right. On the amendment, Chair recognizes senator from the 44th.
Thank you. My colleague from Baltimore County had talked about how Baltimore County disposes of its paint, and I just wanted to make certain that we were clear for the record. The county collects paint brought to our waste acceptance facility and combines it, then it contracts with an outside vendor for disposal. It doesn't just dump it in the landfill. So I just wanted to be clear on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. All right. Let's hear from any senators who have not yet spoken. If not, Chair recognizes the senator from District 6.
I was going to make it very easy, Mr. President. Thank you.
All right. All right. On the amendment and no further discussion, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 32 votes in the negative, the senator's amendment fails. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 260 is hereby ordered printed for third reading. Let's see. Let's get the calendar out here. Before we start up, if we could recognize the chair of the Rules Committee.
Good morning. Good morning,
Good morning.
Mr. President. If I could, I'd like to ask that the members of the Rules Committee please step out into the Senate lounge. Would you want us to go to the red room? Okay. If I could ask you all to just run across the hall real quick. We're going to do something for about 3 minutes and we'll be back.
All right, so if members of the Rules Committee could, and if we could have, let's see, while the members of the Rules Committee are out, we're going to try and do some JPR, second readers. If there's anything that's controversial or wasn't unanimous in committee, just let us know and we'll special order it till Rules comes back. That's it? Okay. All right, let's do report number 32. 32. Oh, yes, Chair recognizes the senator from District 6.
Yes, I pushed the wrong button on that amendment. I wanted it to be green, not red.
The senator wanted to be green. If it could be marked. Any objections to marking the senator as
I know nobody's
green
going to
and not
object.
red?
I know nobody will.
We have good evidence that that is where your intent was. All right. If not, let's take up report number 32. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 267, Delegate Bartlett, Family Law, Maryland Child Abduction Prevention Act, favorable.
Chair recognizes the senator from District 1 as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 267 is a bill that is similar to Senate Bill 383 that has passed the Senate unanimously. The bill does authorize the court in an abduction prevention measure when it comes to child custody proceedings. There are no committee amendments. The bill passed favorable, so therefore it is my recommendation that we adopt this favorable report for House Bill 267. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 267 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. And again, senators, if there's an issue or something that's controversial or there's a thought, just don't hesitate to let us know. We don't want to do this while people are out of the room. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 411, Delegate Embry, Criminal Procedure Violation of Pretrial or Post-Trial Condition by Incarcerated Person, Victim Contact, favorable.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 34th District.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 411 is very similar to a Senate bill that we passed out of here 45-0, and it passed out of the House version, passed out of committee unanimously. The bill amends Section 5-2, 13.1 of the Criminal Procedure Article to explicitly prohibit a person, including an incarcerated person, from violating a condition of pretrial or post-trial release or other pretrial or post-trial conditions that prohibit the person from contacting, harassing, or abusing an alleged victim or going in or near an alleged victim's residence or place of employment if the person is charged with a committed specific offense. So I would move for the favorable adoption of the committee report.
All right, floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any further discussion? Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 411 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 427, Delegate Cardin, Criminal Procedure, Medical Emergency, Immunity, favorable.
House Bill 427, Medical Immunity. Chair recognizes the senator from Prince George's as the floor leader.
Sorry, it's under the pile. House Bill 427, the bill alters provisions related to criminal immunity and sanctions for the violations of pretrial release, probation, or parole for individuals who seek, provide, or assist with the provision of medical assistance for medical emergencies. So then, in short, it's a part of the Good Samaritan bill. It's passed. It's identical to 546, passed the Senate 39-5. No committee amendments, and we ask for favorable report.
All right. Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 427 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 433, Prince George's Delegation, Prince George's County, Office of the Sheriff, Deputy Sheriff, and Labor Organizations, PG 308-23, favorable.
Chair recognizes the senator from Prince George's.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This is a local bill. Has no amendments. This is Prince George's Office of the Sheriff. It just increases or gives a permission to increase the number of full-time assistant sheriffs that's provided to our Prince George's County Department from 4 to 5. No amendments, and ask for a favorable report. Thank you.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 433 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 687, Delegate Cardin, Estates and Trust, Decanting, Maryland Trust Decanting Act, favorable with one amendment.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 42nd District as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill establishes the Maryland Trust Decanting Act, which provides defined and restrictive authority to an authorized fiduciary to distribute property of a trust to one or more second trusts or to modify the terms of the initial trust. There's one amendment which makes clarifying language changes, and with that amendment, the bill is identical to Senate Bill 446, which passed on this floor several weeks ago, 45-0. This bill passed our committee unanimously yesterday, and I hereby move the adoption of the amendment as well as the favorable committee report.
And so the amendment conforms it with the Senate version? Is that
correct?
Okay. All right. On the amendment, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the one committee amendment is adopted. Question now is on the amended report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 687 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 700, Talbot County Delegation, Talbot County Speed Monitoring Systems, intersection of Maryland Route 333, Oxford Road, and Bonfield Avenue, favorable.
Chair recognizes the senator from Montgomery County as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. This legislation, House Bill 700, is nearly identical to Senate Bill 303, which passed the Senate 36-9. This is the bill that authorizes the placement of a speed camera at the intersection of Maryland Route 333, which is Oxford Road, and Bonfield Avenue in Talbot County, where there were numerous accidents and unfortunately a fatality. So this legislation is only slightly different in that it modifies the area that the cost recovery must be spent on to a narrower area. So with that, there are no amendments on the bill, and I move the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 700 is ordered printed or passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 710, Delegate Bagnall, Anne Arundel County Speed Monitoring Systems Residential Districts, favorable.
Chair recognizes the chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill is identical to Senate Bill 679, which passed the Senate 36-9. This bill authorizes the placement of speed cameras in Anne Arundel County on highways and residential districts with a maximum speed limit of 35 miles an hour. There are no amendments. I move for the adoption of favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Chair recognizes the senator from Anne Arundel on the report. Will the floor leader yield?
Yeah, just a quick question. I just got information that one of our current speed cameras in a school area is 40 mile an hour. Would this prohibit that from staying in that situation?
No, I think it enables it where there's a maximum of 35. It enables it for those. So the pre-existing.
It wouldn't prohibit.
It would not prohibit.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion on the report? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 710 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. All right, let's go back. Oh, yes, Chair recognizes the Vice Chair of Finance.
Yes, thank you. I just want to make an introduction.
Certainly,
we have
proceed.
from District 8 at the Active Minds Learning Center, and we have the third and I guess third through fifth grades up there. Can we give them a round of applause?
Wonderful. Welcome to the Active Minds. Wonderful. Hope that you all have a wonderful, wonderful trip to Annapolis today.
It's always good to have active minds. So
That's it. We love active minds. We love active minds. Yes, Chair recognizes the senator from Montgomery County.
Thank you, Mr. President. If rules is off and we're doing introductions, I'd like to introduce my constituent, Joyce Schwartz. Joyce is an active precinct official in my legislative district. She lives in the village of Chevy Chase and just an incredible all-around supporter. Thank you, Joyce, for joining
Excellent.
us.
Welcome. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. All right. Let's go to the Finance Committee. We've got some Senate bills that we want to move along. This is report number 51. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 954, Senator Klossmeyer, Overdose Response Program, Opioid Overdose Reversal Drugs, Choice of Formulation and Dosage, favorable with 2 amendments.
Chair recognizes the Vice Chair of the committee as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 954, as amended, is identical to the House Bill 571, as amended. The bill requires the Department of Health to allow specified entities to choose the formulation or dosage of an opioid overdose reversal drug approved by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration that the entity is provided with through the Overdose Response Program. Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 specifies that the department must allow entities to choose the formulation or dosage of an opioid overdose reversal drug subject to the limitations of the state budget. Authorizes the Attorney General to direct the Opioid Restitution Fund Advisory Council to form subcommittees to conduct business related to the purpose of a court or administrative order or settlement agreement, authorizes a state to receive funds from opioid-related court or administrative judgments or settlement agreements, and the Secretary of Health to establish and administer a grant program to distribute the funds in accordance with the judgment or agreement, and changes the effective date. I move the amendments and the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. On the amendments, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the amended report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report, as amended, is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 954 is hereby ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 974, Senator Bailey, State-Owned Nursing Homes Deficiency Citations and Fines, Contractor Reporting Requirements. This is the emergency bill.
Chair recognizes Chair of the committee as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, Senate Bill 974 is a bill that many of us have co-sponsored because we understand the importance of us receiving prompt notification when there are issues with our state-owned nursing homes and facilities. And so the bill, which, as the President stated, is an emergency bill, basically requires a contractor operating a state-owned nursing home to promptly notify us of fines and warnings that or deficiencies or enforcement actions by the Federal Centers for Medicaid and Medicare Services or the State Office of Healthcare Quality, that they notify the governor, the health department, and the members of that impacted legislative district. Within 30 days after receiving a citation or fine, the contractor must also provide a statement of the deficiencies, a plan for correction, and all communications from the monitoring agencies. Lastly, the Maryland Department of Health must annually report to the governor and the General Assembly on federal and state survey activities conducted and enforcement actions imposed during an immediately preceding 12-month period at each state-owned nursing home that is operated by a contractor. There are no amendments, and Mr. President, I move the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor Leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 974 is hereby ordered printed for third reading. Chair recognizes the Senator from Anne Arundel.
Thank you, Mr. President. May I make an introduction?
Senator may proceed.
Thank you very much. Colleagues, we have some special guests in the gallery. Miss Jessica Cook, who many of us know is a field representative for Senator Ben Cardin, and her son Miles Cook is with us. I'm so happy Miles is here. Miles attends the Harbor School here in Annapolis, which is in District 33, where he's thriving. It is a non-public school for kids with special needs, and just so happens today we have a bill from the Senator from Montgomery County addressing pay parity for his teachers. So I just want to ask the Senate to give them a warm Senate welcome.
Welcome. Welcome. All right. Let's see. Let's go to the, we'll stay with finance. Go to report number 52. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 103, Delegate Bagnall, State Board of Social Work Examiners, temporary license to practice social work, favorable with 2 amendments.
Chair recognizes the Chair of the Committee as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, you remember about a month ago we had several bills on the floor related to issues with the Board of Social Work and the licensure process. So House Bill 103 as amended is identical to Senate Bill 145, which the Senate passed unanimously earlier this session. The bill authorizes the State Board of Social Work Examiners to issue conditional licenses if the test is not available, and temporary licenses while we deal with issues related to disparity in questions on the test. The board may also report to specified information about the issuances of the conditional licenses to our committees. There are 2 amendments, Mr. President. Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 authorizes the board to issue a temporary license to practice Bachelor of Social Work or Master of Social Work to an applicant who has done everything except pass the licensure exam. The temporary license is valid until the earlier of 1 notification of permanent licensure, or if 2 years after the date on which the temporary license was issued. The bill is amended to be an emergency act that will remain in effect until July of 2025 when the bill sunsets. Mr. President, I move the amendments and the adoption of the favorable committee report.
All right, floor leader moves to the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. On the amendments, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the amended report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 103 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 571, Delegate Kipke, Opioids, Opioid Restitution Advisory Council, and Fund an Overdose Response Program, favorable with 2 amendments.
Chair recognizes the Vice Chair of the Committee as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President and members of the Senate. House Bill 571 as amended is identical to Senate Bill 954 as amended. The bill requires the Maryland Department of Health to allow specified entities to choose the formulation or dosage of an opioid overdose reversal drug approved by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration that the entity is provided with through the Overdose Response Program. The bill also, number 1, authorizes the Attorney General to direct that a committee be formed within the Opioid Restitution Fund Advisory counsel in accordance with the requirements of a court or administrative order or settlement agreement. And number 2, requires the Attorney General to establish procedures for any such committee. Finally, the bill clarifies how specified funds received by the Opioid Restitution Fund must be appropriated and distributed. Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 specifies that the department must allow entities to choose the formulation or dosage of an opioid overdose reversal drug subject to the limitations of the state budget. I move the amendments and the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. On the amendments, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the amended report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 571 is ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 695, Delegate Sample Hughes, Rural Maryland Prosperity Investment Fund Allocation of Grants, Rural Communities Improvement Act of 2023, favorable.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 37th District as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 695 is the Rural Communities Improvement Act of 2023. It alters the required distribution of funds from the Rural Maryland Prosperity Investment Fund by modifying one grant category to also include agricultural development, cooperative development, and workforce development. There are no amendments. There was no opposition at the committee hearing, and I'd move the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 695 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 870, Delegate Guyton, Division of Rehabilitation Services and Development Disabilities Administration Memorandum of Understanding, favorable.
Chair recognizes the senator from Anne Arundel as floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 870 requires the Division of Rehabilitation Services, sorry, I think I cut out for a second there, Services in the Maryland State Department of Education and the Developmental Disabilities Administration within the Maryland Department of Health to enter into a memorandum of understanding that includes a data sharing agreement for the medical and psychological records of mutual clients in order to expedite decisions regarding eligibility for services. There are no amendments, there is no fiscal impact, there was no opposition at the committee hearing, and I move the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 870 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1109, Prince George's County Delegation, Prince George's County Economic Development Business Improvement Districts, PG 407-23, favorable.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 28th District as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senators, House Bill 1109 exempts Prince George's County from the statewide Business Improvement District law and establishes a separate law solely for Prince George's County that authorizes the county to establish business improvement districts. The bill specifies the procedures and requirements for establishing a district, including the creation of specified boards of directors and steering committees, public notification regarding the establishment of an improvement district, district expansion, funding, taxing authority, and evaluation and termination of a business improvement district. There are no amendments. There is no fiscal impact. There is no opposition at the committee hearing. Mr. President, I move the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 1109 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 1156, Delegate R. Lewis, Pharmacist, Therapy Management Contract Form, favorable.
Chair recognizes the senator from District 12 as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 1156 authorizes a therapy management contract to be entered into orally or in writing and stipulates that if entered into orally, the contract must be reduced to writing by the parties within 30 days. There are no amendments. There is no fiscal impact, no opposition in the committee hearing. Move the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves to the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 1156 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Let's go to report number 53. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 282, Delegate Queen, Financial Institutions, Mortgage Loan Originators, Independent Contractors, favorable with 2 amendments.
Chair recognizes the Vice Chair of the Committee as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President and members of the Senate. House Bill 282 is the same as Senate Bill 307. The bill alters provisions of law relating to the licensing of mortgage loan originators. The bill provides for the licensing of mortgage loan originators who are independent contractor exclusively engaged by a licensed mortgage lender or a person exempt from licensing to act as a mortgage lender. Under current law, mortgage licensees are only able to sponsor mortgage loan originators who have taxes withheld by the sponsoring licensee. The bill enables sponsors to engage mortgage loan originators without having to withhold taxes on their behalf. Amendment number 1 limits the authorized licensing of mortgage loan originators who are independent contractors to persons who are also licensed insurance producers in good standing under state insurance law. Amendment number 2 requires the Commissioner of Financial Regulation to report to legislative committees on complaints and violations of law or regulations relating to mortgage loan origination services and independent contractors. I move the amendment and the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. On the amendments, any discussion? If not, any objections? Without objection, the 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the amended report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 282 is hereby ordered passed for 3rd reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 502, Delegate R. Lewis, Department of Human Services, Electronic Benefits Transfer Cards, Theft of Benefits, Prevent Electronic Benefits Theft Act of 2023. Favorable with 2 amendments. This is the emergency bill.
Chair recognizes the Senator from Montgomery County as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, House Bill 502 is similar to Senate Bill 2, which passed unanimously. This emergency bill requires the Department of Human Services to restore any lost benefits to a household due to theft, including theft related to the use of an electronic benefits transfer card. The bill also requires an annual report on information related to electronic benefit transfer card theft to the General Assembly. There are 2 amendments. They're technical and corrective. I move the amendments and the adoption of the favorable committee report.
All right. Floor leader moves for the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. On the amendments, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the amended report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 502 is hereby ordered passed to 3rd reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 513, Delegate Queen, Investor-Owned Utilities, Prevailing Wages, Enforcement, favorable.
Chair recognizes the Senator from Montgomery County as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, House Bill 513 requires the Maryland Department of Labor to enforce an existing requirement that specified investor-owned utilities require contractors and subcontractors to pay their employees at least the applicable prevailing wage on certain underground projects. The bill also specifies that the prevailing wage rate for purposes of this requirement is the one determined solely by the Commissioner of Labor and Industry in a process substantially similar to the process for determining prevailing wage rates on public works contracts. There are no amendments. There was no opposition at the committee hearing. I move the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 513 is hereby ordered passed for 3rd reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 676, Delegate Wyval, Cemeteries, Pet Remains, Duty of Perpetual Care, favorable with 2 amendments.
Chair recognizes the Senator from the 37th District.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 676, Cemeteries, Pet Remains, Duty of Perpetual Care, establishes that a registered cemeterian, registered crematory operator, or permit holder who sells to the public services for pet remains, i.e. cremation services, a burial lot, or a burial right, owes a duty of perpetual care for the cemetery in which the pet remains are interred. The First Amendment is technical. The Second Amendment makes changes to the definition of internment and to requirements for pre-need burial contracts consistent with the purpose of the bill. There was no opposition at the committee hearing. I move the amendments and the adoption of the favorable committee report.
All right, floor leader moves for the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report on the amendments. Any discussion? Not? Any objections? Without objection, the 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the amended report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Chair has a amendment. The pages will collect and distribute the senator's amendment. This is the Pets as People initiative.
People love their pets, Mr. President.
No doubt, no doubt.
Yep.
All right, Senator may explain the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. The amendment that you have on your desk, colleagues, to House Bill 676 is actually a technical amendment to the purpose paragraph of the bill. So I'd move the adoption of the committee amendment.
All right, the chair moves the amendment. Any objections from the floor leader? Vociferous ones?
I just want to check, I hope I wasn't, if I was supposed to have included that in my presentation, I would just say doggone.
There may be objections to that joke, but no objections to the amendment. Without objection, the amendment is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 676 is hereby ordered passed for 3rd reading. All right, let's go to budget and tax. We'll start with report number 29. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 151, Senator Augustine, Equitable and Inclusive Transit-Oriented Development Enhancement Act, favorable with 2 amendments.
Chair recognizes the senator from District 30 as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, we've had a lot of discussions over the years about smart growth and transit-oriented development. This bill, Senate Bill 151, continues in support of those goals. It's a bill that we passed last year, and as amended, it would establish the Transit-Oriented Development Capital Grant and Revolving Loan Fund and its purpose, funding sources, and authorized uses. The bill also expands the definition of transit-oriented development, alters existing provisions, and establishes new provisions relating to the designation of TODs, and lastly requires the Secretary of Transportation to annually submit a report to the General Assembly on efforts to increase TODs throughout the state. Mr. President, there are 2 committee amendments. The first is technical. The second amends the bill, as I already described, and conforms it to the bill to the committee's actions on its cross-file, which we will hear next, HB 12. It does move the mandated funding from $10 million to $5 million, move the adoption of the amendments and the favorable committee report.
All right, floor leader moves for the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. On the amendments, any discussion? Any objections? Without objections, the 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the amended report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 151 is hereby ordered printed for 3rd reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 311, Senator Zucker, Non-Public Education, Special Education Placements, Renaming, and Teacher Salaries, Teacher Pay Parity Act, favorable with 2 amendments.
All right, Chair recognizes the bill sponsor as the floor leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Colleagues, a lot of running around today, but doing good stuff. Senate Bill 311 is regarding public school students who are educated in special education schools. As amended, there's no opposition, and what it does is it just adjusts teacher parity, teacher pay above if there's additional costs, and it keeps the status quo in terms of the ratio split, and it's to be split over a number of 3 years. The Budget Committee over the last number of years, 3 years, have put money in the operating budget to offset costs. It's been amended from what passed out of the House of Delegates, which eases the fiscal note. There are 2 committee amendments. The first is technical and adds sponsors. The second strikes the provisions of the bill that would have increased the state share and strikes the provisions that would have renamed the program and clarifies the additional cost paid by the county and non-public schools, and that just goes along with existing law. I would move adoption of the amendments and the favorable committee report.
All right, floor leader moves for the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report on the amendments. Chair recognizes the minority leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. The floor leader and I can continue our conversation we were just having about this.
All right.
I just want to make sure, I had heard at first when the bill came in that the state was absorbing these costs, and now I'm hearing that they've been pushed to the counties. Is that accurate or not?
So that is not accurate.
Okay.
But that's why we have these conversations,
Yes,
right, Senator?
right.
And I appreciate, I know this is an interest area of yours, and you've been a huge champion when it comes to schools like Benedictine. So this is just keeping the status quo of the 70-30 split above what's already cost. You have your base costs, and you have a certain multiplier above that, and that 70-30 split, which keeps the status quo, is just above what the original costs are.
Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate the answers. Thank you, Mr. President.
And I want to thank the floor leader on all his work. I mean, we have tremendous amount of support in the capital budget for one of these schools, Benedictine, and that's because of the work here and the work of that senator. So I appreciate it, Mr. President.
All right, on the 2 amendments, any further discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the amended report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Senator has an amendment?
Yes, sir.
All right, pages will collect and distribute the senator's amendment. Senator may explain the amendment.
Just simply make sure that the Maryland State Department of Education adopts regulations. I move the amendment.
Okay, Senator moves the amendment. Are there any objections?
And I accept it as a friendly amendment.
Without objections, the senator's amendment is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 311 is hereby ordered printed for 3rd reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 424, Senator Elfreth, Public Projects Global Warming Potential of Materials by Clean Maryland Act, favorable with 2 amendments.
Chair recognizes the bill sponsor as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, we've done a lot of work over the last few years setting some ambitious goals to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. This bill represents another tool in our toolbox to meet those goals. So as amended, and before I actually get into the bill, let me just make a quick comment. When starting to work on the bill, it came to the committee's attention that if the concrete industry were a country, it would actually be the 5th highest producer of carbon emissions based on just the way that we produce concrete. It has that great of an impact on our emissions. So by tweaking our procurement policy here in Maryland, we can actually have a big impact on reducing those greenhouse gas emissions. So that's what the goal of the bill does. As amended, it requires the Department of General Services by January 1st, 2026 to establish a maximum acceptable global warming potential for each category of cement or concrete mixture used in the construction of an eligible project. I'll get to those projects in just a moment. By December 31st, 2024, producers of those materials must submit specified environmental product declarations, or EPDs, to DGS for analysis. Beginning in 2026, state agencies must specify in each solicitation for a construction project the cement or concrete mixture that will be used in the project and a reasonable maximum usage threshold below which the bill's requirements do not apply. From there, contractors may not install any cement or concrete mixture before they submit those EPDs. The bill also establishes an Environmental Product Declaration Assistance Fund administered by the Department of Commerce to award grants to producers of eligible materials to support the development, standardization, and transparency for these EPDs. Also important to note, the federal government's providing $6 billion in grants to these companies as well to kind of convert into less carbon producing companies. The grant program terminates in December 31st, 2024. Mr. President, there are 2 committee amendments. The first is technical. The second clarifies the definition of eligible project, as I mentioned, as a capital project under the State Highway Performance Green Building Program. State High Performance, not highway. The second delays by 1 year the date by which the bill requirements go into effect, and the third requires producers of eligible materials to submit environmental product declarations to DGS on or before December 31st, 2024, and requires DGS to analyze those declarations and assess global warming potential for eligible materials used in the project. Mr. President, it's important to note that the bill prioritizes but does not mandate the use of lower carbon emission concrete. And with that, I move the committee amendments and the favorable committee report.
All right, floor leader moves for the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. On the amendments, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the amended report. Any discussion? Chair recognizes the senator from the 37th district on the report.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. Can you explain the difference between prioritizing and mandating? Well, you just mentioned it's important to note that this legislation doesn't mandate, but it prioritizes. Can you explain that for me?
Sure. So for smaller projects or for projects that DGS decides that it's cost prohibitive to use, that they have the flexibility to not choose a procurement or choose a bidder that doesn't meet the standards of the bill. So there's flexibility in that procurement. It's not mandating.
And does that standard apply to the larger projects also?
For larger projects, when it comes to if it's cost prohibitive, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Any further discussion on the report? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 424 is hereby ordered printed for 3rd reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 547, the President Broadband Expansion Incentive Act of 2023, favorable with 2 amendments.
Chair recognizes the senator from District 2 as floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 547, as amended, requires the Office of Statewide Broadband within the Department of Housing and Community Development to study and make recommendations regarding incentives to encourage broadband expansion in the state. The office must submit its report to the governor and the General Assembly on or before January 1, 2024. There are 2 committee amendments. Amendment 1 is technical and make changes to the title, purpose, and function paragraphs. Amendment number 2 strikes the tax exemptions proposed by the bill and requires the Office of Statewide Broadband within the Department of Housing and Community Development to study and make recommendations regarding incentives to encourage broadband expansion in the state. Move the adoption of the committee report and the 2 amendments.
All right. Floor leader moves for the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. On the amendments, any discussion? Any objection to the 2 committee amendments? Without objection, the 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the amended report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 547 is hereby ordered printed for 3rd reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 720, Chair Budget and Taxation Committee, Maryland Horse Racing Act, Sunset Extension, favorable with 2 amendments.
Chair recognizes Chair of the committee as floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 720, as amended, extends the termination date for the Maryland Horse Racing Act and Maryland Racing Commission by 10 years to July 1st, 2034. It creates the Maryland Thoroughbred Racetrack Operating Authority and establishes the membership of that authority. The bill also establishes the Maryland Racing Operations Fund and transfers funding from the Racing and Community Development Facilities Fund. Senate Bill 720 also extends the time for the owner of the Bowie Race Course Training Center to transfer property to the city of Bowie and provides that certain funding may be used for engineering design and environmental analysis. There are 2 amendments. Amendment 1 makes changes to the title, purpose, and function paragraph and makes technical changes to the bill. Amendment 2 creates the Maryland Thoroughbred Racing Operating Authority as previously described and terminates the authority after 4 years. So let me give you a little context on this. So first off, this bill came in, the Maryland Horse Racing Act Sunset Extension is a very simple extension of a 10-year sunset, and it still does that. But what we've done is amended it to create an authority. So you all may remember in 2020, we made some decisions with horse racing, and we developed a plan that would create the opportunity for improvements at all the tracks, the transfer of a training facility at Bowie, which is still going to happen. But things happened. The world changed, and the best made plans back then have been seriously changed based on interest rates, supply chain, construction, inflation, all of those things. So where are we right now, and why is it important that we develop this authority, which I'll describe in a minute? The reason that we are where we are right now, since those things did not happen, there is an operating agreement, a 10-year operating agreement that the Jockey Club, the Horsemen's Association, and the Breeders all are involved in to operate the tracks, okay? That 10-year agreement, by the way, just for clarity's sake, the Jockey Club is not the club of jockeys, it is the owner of the tracks. And so that agreement, that 10-year agreement, was up in January. There was an extension for another 6 months, so it's now up in July. It is unclear, and there's a lot of negotiations, discussion going on about what's going to happen as we move forward. And so we have put together the amendments in this bill to allow for an authority to be developed. So should that operating agreement lapse in the summer when we're out of session, for us to come in with this authority would take over responsibilities for maintaining the operations of everything. And that's essentially what this bill does. The authority has a 9-member board. A lot of the folks that you'd assume, the governor has a number of appointments, the Senate and the House has some appointments. But the bottom line is that between now and when we come back in January next year, we want to make sure that we're in a position to see that the tracks continue as decisions are being made. And it is with that, Mr. President, and this was a unanimous vote in the committee, and it was with that I would move the adoption of the 2 amendments and the favorable committee report.
All right. The floor leader moves the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. On the amendments, Chair recognizes the senator from the 38th District on the amendments.
Thank you, Mr. President. Could I just ask the floor leader a question?
Senator may proceed.
Thank you. Thank you for that outline and explanation. I know there was a lot of back and forth yesterday. Could you just explain to me the impact on Ocean Downs, harness racing, and
0.
Since I represent that?
0.
Thank you.
So that's a standard bred track for those who don't know, and this only involves the thoroughbred racing tracks.
And I understand that the amendments that you outlined were worked through there was some back and forth with different organizations yesterday on these amendments. I was just trying to get an update on that.
I'm not exactly sure what you mean, but yes, there were discussions.
There was, when those of us not on the committee, when this popped, there were a lot of questions coming to
About
members not on the committee trying to understand,
You mean concerns about the standard bred?
I just wanted to make sure that, obviously, representing Ocean Downs.
Sure. Completely separate.
Okay, thank you.
All right. On the amendments, any further discussion? If not, any objection to the 2 committee amendments? Without objection, the 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the amended report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 720 is hereby ordered printed for 3rd reading. All right, let's go to stick with budget and tax, report number 30. Clerk, read the first bill.
House Bill 21, Delegate Atterbury, property tax, tax sales notices and payoff amount for redemption, favorable.
Chair recognizes the senator from Baltimore County is the floor leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. What this bill and what follows are a series of important but small changes to property tax sales. House Bill 21 authorizes an owner of an owner-occupied residential property to request from the holder of the certificate of tax sale the current payoff amount to redeem the property. The current mortgagee of the property and specified others are also authorized to request the current payoff amount. And that payoff amount is provided by the holder of the certificate of sale. It must include only those expenses incurred before the holder of the certificate of sale received the request for the payoff amount and be deemed valid for a period of 30 days from the date the holder provides it. It also requires that an email address be provided in the certificate holders and the tax collector's contact information. There are no amendments. I move for the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 21 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 43, Delegate Atterbury, property tax sales payment of balance after foreclosure, favorable.
Chair recognizes the senator from Baltimore County's floor leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. House Bill 43, it requires each county to establish a process for a person entitled to any remaining balance of the purchase price of a property sold at a tax sale over the amount required for the payment of of taxes, interest, penalties, and cost of sale to claim the balance. There's a process that's set up, and within 90 days of delivering a deed to a purchaser, the tax collector must notify the prior property owner of the amount of any remaining balance and that process for that former owner to claim the balance. There are no amendments, and move for the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 43 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 57, Delegate Atterbury, property tax sales requirement to sell, favorable.
Senator from Baltimore County.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. House Bill 57 just repeals the time limit that's required in the existing statute to conduct a tax sale, and it leaves that to local law. There are no amendments. Move the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 57 is ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 83, Delegate Atterbury, property tax sales redemption, favorable.
Chair recognizes Senator from Baltimore County as the floor leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. House Bill 83 requires that tax collector to make at least one attempt to contact a holder of a certificate of sale by phone and email after the collector is informed that the plaintiff or holder of the certificate of sale has failed to respond to a request for the amount of expenses included in the redemption amount that is made by certain interested parties. If the plaintiff or holder of the certificate of sale fails to respond within 5 business days, the tax collector may redeem the property without a satisfaction letter stating that the expenses of the plaintiff or the holder of the certificate of sale have been paid. There are no amendments. Move for the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 83 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 458, Delegate J. Lewis, public school construction programs approvals and administration alterations, favorable.
Chair recognizes the senator from Prince George's as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 458 is a cross-file of Senate Bill 360. It makes the Interagency Commission on School Construction an independent unit of state government. The bill raises cost thresholds for specific actions related to school construction that must be approved by the state superintendent and makes other technical and procedural changes related to the approval and funding of school construction projects in the state. This bill also, beginning in fiscal 2025, increases from $25 million to $27 million the funding required to support a public-private partnership entered into by the Prince George's County Board to construct public schools. The bill makes clarifying and conforming changes related to that funding. Local school systems must conduct life cycle assessments of building systems for school construction projects as specified. There are no committee amendments. I move adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 458 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 677, Delegate Clippinger, Pride of Baltimore 2, appropriations extension, favorable.
677. Chair recognizes the senator from Baltimore City as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 677 reestablishes the mandated appropriation for the operations of the Pride of Baltimore, established by Check Act 854 of 2018, specifically requires the governor for fiscal years 2024 through 2028 to include in the state budget $500,000. Committee amendments none. Move adoption of the favorable report, Mr. President.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 677 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 680, delegate tolls, income tax, student loan, debt relief, tax credit, alterations, favorable.
Chair recognizes the senator from Prince George's as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Number one, House Bill 680 increases from $9 million to $18 million the maximum amount of student debt relief tax credits the Maryland Higher Education Commission may approve for any taxable year. Number two, requires MEC to annually reserve $9 million of the authorized credits for state employees as specified. Number three, requires MEC to prioritize tax credit recipients and amounts based on whether the qualified taxpayers graduated from institutions of higher education in the state at which at least 40% of attendees are eligible to receive federal Pell Grants. And number four, requires MHEC to engage in specified outreach regarding the tax credit program. The bill applies to tax year 2023 and beyond. There were no committee amendments. Move the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 680 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 947, Charles County Delegation, Charles County Property Tax Credit for Volunteer Emergency Responders, favorable.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 27th District as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, House Bill 947 authorizes Charles County to grant a property tax credit for real property owned and occupied as the principal residence of an emergency responder or an unmarried surviving spouse of a deceased emergency responder if the federal adjusted gross income of the emergency responder or the unmarried surviving spouse for the immediately preceding taxable year is $150,000 or less. There were no committee amendments. Move adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 947 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 1178, Calvert County Delegation, Calvert County Length of Service Award Program Benefits, favorable.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 27th District as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, this bill alters the Length of Service Award Program, LOSAP, in Calvert County. The bill authorizes the Calvert County Commissioners to approve an increase in the benefit amount that a qualified volunteer is eligible to receive that is equal to the percentage of the cost of living increase authorized for county employees. The bill also, one, increases the death benefit that Calvert County must grant to any qualified volunteer who dies in the line of duty from $6,000 to $10,000 as specified. Two, increases the maximum additional death benefit from $6,000 to $10,000 for a qualified volunteer who dies and has completed 25 years of certified service. And three, increases the maximum burial benefit from $240 to $336 for each year of certified service that a volunteer who receives a specified benefit is entitled to upon death. The bill takes effect on July 1, 2023. Move the amendment. Move the committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 1178 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Let's go to budget and tax number 31. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 2, Delegate J. Lewis, Income Tax Subtraction Modification, Union Dues, favorable with one amendment.
Chair recognizes the Vice Chair of the committee as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. As amended, this bill restores the tax deduction for union dues. It's identical to a bill we passed last year, which was vetoed by the governor. The amendments are technical and remove the cap. I move the amendment and the favorable report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the one committee amendment and the favorable committee report. On the amendment, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the one committee amendment is adopted. Question now is the amended report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is amended, is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 2 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 12, Delegate Jay Lewis, Equitable Inclusive Transit-Oriented Development Enhancement Act, favorable with 2 amendments.
Chair recognizes the Senator from District 30 as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, House Bill 12, as amended, is the exact match to the bill we heard earlier. Again, providing a $5 million grant fund for transit-oriented development, capital grant and revolving loan fund. I move the 2 committee amendments and the adoption of the committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. On the amendments, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question now on the amended report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is amended, is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 12 is ordered passed for 3rd reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 261, Delegate Kerr, Public Projects, Procurement of Construction Materials by Clean Maryland Act, favorable with 2 amendments.
Chair recognizes the cross-filer as the floor leader.
I don't mind that title at all, Mr. President. Thank you. Again, this is another, as amended, exact match cross-file of the bill we heard earlier, prioritizing the procurement of low carbon emitting concrete. I move the 2 committee amendments and the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. Any discussion on the amendments? Any objections? Without objection, the 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question now on the amended report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report, as amended, is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 261 is hereby ordered passed for 3rd reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 424, Delegate Simpson, State Retirement and Pension Systems, Non-Vested Accounts, Regular Interest, favorable with 2 amendments.
Chair recognizes the Senator from the 27th District as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, House Bill 424, as amended, is a matching cross-file to Senate Bill 481, as passed unanimously by the Senate. The bill requires the state retirement and pension system to pay regular interest in the account of a non-vested former member who has not withdrawn the accumulated contributions becomes an active member in any state retirement pension system plan. Interest remains payable as long as the former member remains an active member in the state retirement pension plan. There are 2 amendments. The first is technical. The second applies the bill retroactively for any member who is an active employee on the effective date of the bill. Move adoption of the committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. On the amendments, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the amended report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 424 is hereby ordered passed for 3rd reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 448, Delegate Corman, Non-Public Education Placements of Children with Disabilities, Teacher Salaries, Teacher Pay Parity Act, favorable with 1 amendment. This is the emergency bill.
Chair recognizes the Senator from Montgomery County as the floor leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. House Bill 448 is a direct cross-file now once it's amended to Senate Bill 311. The committee amendment strikes many provisions of the bill to make sure that it conforms directly with the Senate bill, including the adoption, the requirement for the Maryland State Department of Education to adopt the regulations. I move the amendments and the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the 1 committee amendment and the favorable committee report. On the amendment, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the 1 committee amendment is adopted. Question now on the amended report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is amended, is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 448 is hereby ordered passed for 3rd reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 541, Delegate Forbes, State Retirement and Pension Systems, Earnable Compensation, Non-Vested Former Members, and Immediate Vesting, favorable with 1 amendment.
Chair recognizes the Senator from the 27th District as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, House Bill 541, as amended, excludes specified payments to members of the state retirement pension system from the definition of earnable compensation, requires the State Retirement and Pension System Board of Trustees, after receiving proof of the death of a former member, to pay any remaining accumulated contributions of a deceased non-vested former member to the former member's designated beneficiary, or if there is no beneficiary, to the former member's estate, and clarifies which state government employees vest immediately upon becoming members of the State Retirement Pension System. The exclusion from earnable compensation applies retroactively, except for an exclusion where a member and employer contribution has been made. There is 1 amendment that exempts certain retroactive salary increases where the member and employer contributions were made to the system. Move adoption of the committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the one committee amendment and the favorable committee report. On the amendment, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the one committee amendment is adopted. Question now is on the amended report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 541 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 803, Delegate Forbes, State Retirement and Pension Systems Administrative Fees, favorable with one amendment.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 27th as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 803, as amended, alters the timing for calculating administrative fees paid by participating employers to the Board of Trustees of the State Retirement and Pension System to cover the annual operating expenses for the Board and the State Retirement Agency. There is one amendment. The amendment clarifies the process for certifying administrative fees for participating employers. Move adoption of the committee report.
Floor leader moves to the adoption of the one committee amendment and the favorable committee report. On the amendment, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the one committee amendment is adopted. Question now on the amended report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 803 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Do we have another one? Yep. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 816, Delegate Phillips, Procurement Minority-Owned Business Enterprises, Veteran-Owned Small Business Enterprises Participation Goal Scorecard, favorable with one amendment.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 27th as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 816, as amended, is a matching cross-file to Senate Bill 510, as passed unanimously by the Senate. The bill requires the Governor's Office of Small, Minority, and Women Business Affairs to develop a scorecard to evaluate state agencies on their performance towards meeting the state's minority business enterprise participation goal and the Veterans Owned Small Business Enterprise goal. The scorecard must include a grading scale developed by the agency, by the Governor's Office, as a weighted system that includes each agency's contribution toward meeting each of the two participating goals. The Governor's Office of Small, Minority, and Women Business Affairs must publish each agency's grades on its website and within 30 days submit the information to the General Assembly. There is one amendment which makes a technical correction to put the bills in matching posture. Move adoption of the committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the one committee amendment and the favorable committee report. On the amendment, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the one committee amendment is adopted. Question now is on the amended report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 816 is hereby ordered passed to third reading. Let's go to number 32, budget and tax. Clerk, read the bill.
House Bill 551, the Speaker, Office of Statewide Broadband Study of Broadband Expansion Incentives, favorable with one amendment.
Chair recognizes the senator from District 2 as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 551 is in the exact same posture as Senate Bill 547, which was reported earlier today. It requires the Office of Statewide Broadband within the Department of Housing and Community Development to study and make recommendations regarding incentives to encourage broadband expansion in the state. There is one amendment that alters the date when the office must submit the report. Move the adoption of the amendment and the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the one committee amendment and the favorable committee report. Any discussion? Any objection to the amendment? Without objection, the one committee amendment is adopted. Question now is on the amended report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 551 is hereby ordered passed to third reading. All right, let's go to the report on the Committee on Rules so we can get these two committees. Clerk will read report number 5.
House Bill 1, Delegate Wilson, Civil Actions, Child Sexual Abuse, Definition, Damages, and Statute of Limitations, the Child Victims Act of 2023, re-referred to JPR. House Bill 230, Delegate Love, Department of the Environment, Zero Emissions, Medium and Heavy Duty Vehicles, Regulations, Clean Trucks Act of 2023, re-referred to.
We have two Senate bills at the top.
Wait a minute.
Just want to make sure they're included on the report.
I don't have them.
Online. Okay, all right. Majority Leader moves so be considered the reading of the bills. The bills will be referred to their appropriate standing committees. We've got another report from Rules. This is report number 7. Clerk, read the bills. Seven.
House Bill 149, Delegate Hornberger, Maryland Electricians Act revisions, were referred to Education, Energy, the Environment.
Majority Leader moves so be considered the reading of the bills. They'll be re-referred to their appropriate standing committees. Let's go to the report number 6.
SJ number 5, the President, locating the new Federal Bureau of Investigations headquarters in Maryland, favorable.
All right, the question is on the report for the joint resolution. Chair recognizes the chair of the committee on the report.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Rules Committee met yesterday and unanimously voted to re-refer the bills on this report to the appropriate standing committees.
That was on the, yes, thank you, Madam Chair. On the report, do we have the favorable report yet on the joint resolution? We do have the report available. On the Senate Joint Resolution number 5, does the Senator have the report?
I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
Report number 6. Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Joint Resolution 5 is an incredibly important measure that urges the United States General Service Administration to select one of our state's 2 finalist sites for the new FBI headquarters. The Rules Committee voted this resolution favorably yesterday. I move for the adoption of this joint resolution.
All right. The chair moves that we adopt the favorable committee report on Senate Joint Resolution number 5. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill, the resolution or its title? Seeing none, Senate Joint Resolution 5 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. All right. Let's go to, we've got a Senate bill. This is Special Order Calendar number 48. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 477, Senator Feldman, residential construction or significant renovation electric vehicles charging. Question is on the adoption of the 3 committee amendments and the favorable report.
All right. Question is on the 3 committee amendments. Any objection to the 3 committee amendments? Without objection, the 3 committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the amended report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Chair recognizes the minority leader has an amendment. Pages will collect and distribute the senator's amendment. Senator may explain the amendment.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. This is a continuation of the conversation we had yesterday with the electric vehicle charging stations. And if you recall, at the bottom of the page, there was some study language. This amendment simply adds to the study language that the, I think it was the MEA, would evaluate different options for paying for charging a vehicle at a charging station for multifamily homes. So that could be either in the form of paying at the charging station, that could be in the form of potentially increased rents, and this becomes an amenity to that apartment building. It could be through homeowner fees, condominium fees, but we just want to have a evaluation of that and suggestions on the best way to move forward with that as well. Ask to move the amendment, please.
All right, the senator moves the amendment. Chair recognizes the chair of the committee.
That's a friendly amendment, Mr.
All
President.
right, look at that. Okay, excellent. All right, any objections? Without objection, the amendment is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 477 is hereby ordered printed for third reading. Let's stick with the Committee on Education, Energy, and the Environment. This is report number, I'm all out of order now. We'll just go with what we got. 45. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 706, Delegate A. Jones, Community Development Sustainable Communities Business Facade Improvement Program, favorable.
Chair recognizes the Senator from Prince George's as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, this bill establishes the Business Facade Improvement Program in the Department of Housing and Community Development to assist qualified businesses with improving the outside appearance of the businesses, buildings, and facilities. DHCD must distribute funds from the program to counties, including Baltimore City, and municipalities that have at least one sustainable community and that apply for the funds. Each local government that receives funds must then distribute grants to qualified businesses that apply for a grant. Beginning in fiscal year 2025, the governor must include in the annual budget an appropriation of $5 million to the program. The bill takes effect July 1st, 2023. There were no committee amendments. I move the favorable committee report.
All right, floor leader moves to the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 706 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 910, Delegate Frazier Hidalgo, Energy Storage Targets and Maryland Energy Storage Program Establishment, favorable with one amendment.
Chair recognizes the Senator from the President Pro Tem as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 910 is a cross-file bill that requires the Public Service Commission to establish the Maryland Energy Storage Program and set targets for the deployment of new energy storage devices in the state, with a goal of 3,000 megawatts by the end of the 2033 PJM delivery year. By December 31, 2023, the PSC must report to the General Assembly on pending designs for the program and any additional statutory changes required to fully implement an effective program to meet the minimum energy storage targets established under the bill. There is one committee amendment. The amendment removes the requirement that a utility use a power purchase agreement to reach the energy capacity, requires utility companies to create projects cost effectively, and requires the utility companies to utilize federal and state funding. The amendments also delay implementation of the program by 1 year, from 2024 to 2025. Additionally, the amendments give the Public Service Commission the option to prioritize cost effectiveness over meeting the goal. I move the adoption of the one committee amendment and the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the one committee amendment and the favorable committee report. On the amendment, any discussion? On the amendment, Chair recognizes the minority leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. If the floor leader could yield for a few questions, please.
Yes.
Senator may proceed.
First of all, just to make sure, this bill then will also be in the same posture as Senate bill that's going to follow with this. Okay, so just ask questions. So recall in 2019, we passed the energy storage pilot program. How does this differ from that? Is this just removing the pilot, or are there different attributes to this bill as well?
There are different attributes to this bill. This bill is, first of all, establishing a target which would be more on the utility scale. We're looking for larger megawatts for this, and so that program continues, but this is separate, establishing larger targets to help us meet our clean energy goals.
Okay, so this is different from that pilot program. Okay, so do we know if in the pilot program any of these storage units have been constructed?
They are still in development.
They're still in development. So the other thing that was required of the pilot program was a report from the PSC due July 1st of this year.
I believe that's correct.
Actually, next year.
It's not. It has not been finalized.
But we haven't seen any of the results from the pilot program?
That is correct, and that again, that is on an entirely different scale, but that is correct.
Right, but I mean, it's the scale of the projects are different, but they're the same types of projects. They're energy storage type projects, right, regardless of the size.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, so one of the questions that they were going to report back was the cost recovery mechanism of the pilot programs. How does this bill address cost recovery?
We amended this bill to make sure that we had cost effectiveness language in there that made sure that the PSC would do an analysis prior to any awarding to make sure that whatever would be done in the development of the program would be cost effective.
Okay, but we really don't define cost effective, but we have at least given them some framework to say
That is correct, as they're developing the program.
Okay, but at the same time, if the public utilities are the ones that are constructing these projects, cost recovery would mean that they could go back through a rate case and take the costs of these projects and put it back into their rates?
Senator, this is supply, and as you know, so those are projects that occur within PJM. So it is in a different place and posture, those who would be owning the actual supply, because it falls into the category of supply. And so that's where it's in a different category than for the local utilities.
Okay, so that was I appreciate that. That was going to be a question. So this is considered energy generation?
Yes, sir.
So if it's energy generation, do these projects have to go through the CPCN? Do we know?
Yes, sir.
They do. Okay. Okay, but we are allowing, so this is very different. We are allowing the public utilities to now generate energy. That's a little bit different than we've allowed before, right? They are normally not generators, they're suppliers.
That is correct.
Okay, so in doing that, are they going to recover the cost through, what I'm wondering if these end up becoming regulatory assets, that they could recover the cost for constructing these.
There is the possibility that they could become regulatory assets.
Okay, and if they're regulatory assets, then they could go
Yes.
through a rate case to
That is
recover
correct.
the cost, which I think is what's probably going to happen. I can't see that they're going to necessarily sell electricity to the grid after having built these projects, but I don't think we've allowed them to necessarily do that just yet. Might be coming, but I don't think we've allowed that. Okay, there's another concern that, first of all, the Public Service Commission required 6 positions. Do you know if I do see that they're required, they have special funds. So
Yes.
are we just assuming that there's enough funding coming in from the utilities that they can cover these
That is where it would
individuals?
be funded from.
So
Correct.
that's where, and they are able to get their 6 additional people for that. So finally, the last part of the fiscal note says, assuming 90% of new energy storage additions are utility scale, because that's what we're talking about here.
Yes.
You know where I'm going. The total cost to construct sufficient storage to reach 3,000 megawatts of power output at those prices is $3.8 billion. Is that what we're looking at with this piece of legislation, $3.8 billion?
No, we are not. We have received a separate cost analysis that would be approaching $1 billion. But the thing about this is that these are the big numbers that are associated with energy, as you well know. I mean, they're not going to be small numbers. Now, what we do know in the study that we do have is that as we develop those, we had a cost effectiveness study done that if we develop the 3,000, that we should be able to actually, depending on the energy mix, because remember this works in concert with our RPS goals and our offshore wind. If we're able to move away from natural gas and move to a larger percentage of our power supply being from those intermittent sources like wind, that in combination with storage would actually seek to save us around $100 million annually by virtue of not having to support a lot of the gas and the gas infrastructure that's out there. We're trying to make that transition. This is simply saying we already are trying to make the transition with wind and other intermittent power sources. We need to have this on the other side of that in order to really be able to maximize it.
Okay, I certainly understand that aspect of the bill. I'm still concerned about the cost recovery. Part of the bill talks about the program may include a system of energy storage credits and market-based incentives. So when we talk about credits, and you mentioned the RPS, that's why I followed back on that. And again, if you're saying this truly is supply, then is there projected to be some type of a rec market for this? Or, I mean, how is credits being thought about within this legislation?
I am not certain. I am not certain that that is the case, but we have set this up in establishing the targets, given the direction to the PSC to come up with the best case and the best model. That may include a renewable energy credit. But right now, this is the first step as far as establishing the targets and then working on the program.
Okay. And we don't necessarily know how the pilot program projects, how those costs have been recovered yet.
We have not yet received the report on that. And again, those are a different posture than what this contemplates.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Floor Leader. Mr. President, just broader concerns about this overall. We do have a pilot program in place. You know, yes, it is smaller size energy storage. This takes a dramatic leap in the size of it. I think the Public Service Commission says, in a sense, a 75% increase in what we're trying to do right now in the pilot program. I'm just wondering, is this really necessary that we start this program this quickly on the heels of a pilot program that we have not even gotten back that report yet that we had requested? I think it'd be more prudent if we got that report back, analyzed it, figured out some of these questions on how this was going to work, and then move forward. You know, again, I do understand that these are larger size, but at the same time, I would think that a lot of the issues of the program, how they were implemented, I understand that some of these may have been built, some of these have taken time to get built, not up and operating yet. There just seems to be so many unknowns that I just don't understand why this is so urgent that we move forward with this until we get the results of the pilot program. So thank you very much.
All right. On the amendment, any further discussion on the amendment? Any objections to the amendment? Without objection, the one committee amendment is adopted. Question now is on the amended report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 910 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 983, Delegate Allen, Hunting, Wildlife, Conservation, and Outdoor Recreation Funding, Promotion, Management, Licenses, Permits, and Stamps, favorable.
Chair recognizes the President Pro Tem on the report.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 983 is nearly identical to Senate Bill 327, as unanimously passed by the Senate. The bill establishes the Wildlife Conservation Education and Outreach Program within the Department of Natural Resources to, in general, increase outdoor recreation and stewardship, hunting, and wildlife conservation. The bill also increases fees for various hunting license stamps and permits, alters Maryland's recreational use statute, and requires the department to develop a plan to address deer overpopulation in the state. There is a minor technical difference between this bill and the Senate cross-file relating to a requirement that the department consider the feasibility of implementing a rotational closure hunting strategy on state land. There are no committee amendments. I move adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. On the report, any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, the favorable committee report is adopted. Without amendments, House Bill 983 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Let's go to report number 46. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 697, Senator Augustine, Energy Storage Targets and Maryland Energy Storage Program Establishment, favorable with two amendments.
This is what I thought the last one was. So, Chair recognizes the bill sponsor as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill is in the same posture as the House bill that we just heard, requires the Public Service Commission to establish the Maryland Energy Storage Program and set targets for the deployment of new energy storage devices in the state. Ultimate goal of 3,000 megawatts by the end of the 2033 PGM delivery year. Program must be implemented by July 1st, 2024, and must include specified aspects by December 31, 2023. PSC must report to the General Assembly on pending designs for the program and any additional statutory changes required to fully implement an effective program to meet the minimum energy storage targets established under the bill. There are 2 committee amendments. Amendment 1 makes technical changes and adds a co-sponsor. Amendment 2 modifies the targets to be measured in megawatts instead of megawatt hours, removes the requirement that a utility use a power purchase agreement to reach the energy capacity, requires utility companies to create project cost effectively, and requires the utility companies to utilize federal and state funding. The amendments also delay implementation of the program by 1 year from 2024 to 2025. Additionally, the amendments give the Public Service Commission the option to prioritize cost effectiveness over meeting the goal. I urge the adoption of the favorable committee report and the 2 committee amendments.
Floor leader moves to the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. On the amendments, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the amended report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 697 is hereby ordered printed for 3rd reading. Let's go to, or stay with, Education, Energy, and the Environment. This is 47. Clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 535, Delegate Feldmark, Election Laws, Balance, Issuance, Processing, Reporting Procedures, favorable with 2 amendments.
Chair recognizes the Vice Chair of the Committee as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. As amended, this House bill will be identical to Senate Bill 379, which has already passed this chamber. Just to refresh your memory, this is about early processing of our mail-in ballots, which have just exploded in numbers, and so the early processing is important so our constituents and we can all get timely access to election results. I'd like to move the amendments and the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves to the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. On the amendments, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the amended report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 535 is hereby ordered passed for 3rd reading. Let's go to judicial proceedings. Report number 33. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 23, Delegate Stewart, Mobile and Manufactured Homes Relocation Plans and Sales of Communities Manufactured Housing Modernization Act of 2023, favorable.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 34th District as floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 23 establishes a procedure for owners and buyers of mobile home parks, including giving notice to residents if there's a buyer for the property and the new owner does not plan to keep the property as a mobile home park for the next 5 years. In that situation, residents are given the option to band together and purchase the property on similar terms. House Bill 23 is identical to Senate Bill 746, which passed unanimously out of this body. I move for the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. On the report, any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 23 is hereby ordered passed for 3rd reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 36, Delegate Lehman, Real Property Actions to Repossess, Proof of Rental Licensure, favorable.
Chair recognizes the Vice Chair of the Committee as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill requires a landlord in a jurisdiction that requires licensure when filing a written complaint to repossess residential property to plead with certain facts in a form prescribed by the judiciary that the property is either licensed in compliance with local rental licensing requirements, exempt from applicable local rental licensing requirements, or unlicensed for certain reasons. There are no committee amendments. The bill is identical to Senate Bill 100, which passed in this chamber unanimously. I move the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 36 is hereby ordered passed for 3rd reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 92, Delegate Holmes, Ground Leases, Collection of Rent, Interest, Fees, and Other Expenses, Registration Requirements, favorable.
Chair recognizes the senator from Baltimore County as the floor leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. This bill establishes that a ground lease or an amendment is not registered until the ground lease amendment is posted on the online registry is currently maintained by SDAT. It also establishes a process for a leasehold tenant of a ground lease to challenge and bring action against a ground lease holder who takes specified collection actions after failing to properly register a ground lease as required under existing statutory provisions. A ground lease registration or amendment that has been voided by SDAT under the provisions of this bill is prohibited from being considered registered. This bill is identical, a cross-file of SB 193, which passed this chamber unanimously. There were no committee amendments. I move the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 92 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 93, Delegate Holmes Residential Ground Leases Redemption and Extinguishment Requirements, favorable.
Chair recognizes the Senator from Baltimore County as the floor leader.
Thank you very much. This bill repeals statutory provisions that prohibit a leasehold tenant from providing specified documentation and payment to SDAT earlier than 90 days after an application for redemption or extinguishment has been posted on SDAT's website. The bill specifies that SDAT must issue a leasehold tenant a ground rent redemption or extinguishment certificate as appropriate when notice that the application has been made to redeem or extinguish the ground rent has been posted for at least 90 days and that SDAT has received specified documentation fees and any required payment amounts as applicable. This is the identical cross-file of Senate Bill 196, which is chamber passed unanimously. I move the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 93 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 244, Delegate Sharasa, Estates and Trusts, Registers of Wills, Electronic Filing and Signatures, favorable.
Chair recognizes the Senator from the 42nd District as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill requires a register of wills to accept any document except an original will that is filed electronically through a system established by the register. However, the bill does not prohibit the filing of a document in paper form with the register. The bill also prohibits a register from refusing to accept any document based on the manner in which it was signed. This bill is identical to Senate Bill 253, which passed the Senate unanimously. There are no committee amendments. I hereby move the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 244 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 1002, Delegate Foley, Commercial Vehicles, Police-Initiated Towing Alterations, favorable.
Chair recognizes the Senator from Prince George's as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill is identical to SB 927, which passed the Senate unanimously, and it establishes a committee on rate setting and complaint resolution for police-initiated medium-duty and heavy-duty towing and recovery within the Department of State Police to recommend approved rates for police-initiated towing and recovery services and perform other duties as well. There are no committee amendments. It just establishes a committee on rate setting and complaint resolution. Urge favorable report.
All right. Floor leader moves to the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 1002 is hereby ordered passed for third reading. Let's go to the consent calendar, number 15. Clerk will read the report.
Report of the Judicial Committee, consent calendar number 15.
Chair recognizes the chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. These bills are cross-files of bills that passed the Senate floor. They were all in the same posture and they passed unanimously. I'd move for the adoption of the favorable committee report.
All right. Senators, please take a look at the bills on consent calendar number 15. The chair has moved favorably on the report for these consent calendar bills. Are there any bills that senators wish to separate? If not, on the question of the favorable report, any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The Favorable Committee report for bills on consent calendar number 15 is adopted, and the bills are ordered passed to third reading. Somehow I got them out of order. Let's go to 14.
Judicial Proceedings Report number 34, consent calendar number 14.
All right. The chair recognizes the chair of the committee on the report.
Thank you, Mr. President. These are cross files of bills that passed the Senate floor. They're in the same posture as their Senate counterparts. They all passed unanimously. I'd move for the favorable adoption of the committee report.
Floor Leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report for bills on consent calendar number 14. Senators, please take a look. Are there any bills that senators wish to remove and vote separately? If not, on the report, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report for bills on consent calendar number 14 is adopted, and the bills are ordered passed to third reading. All right, let's, oh, that's unfinished. Okay, let's do, if we could ring the bells, Madam Secretary, we'll do some third readers here. All right, let's do a quorum call.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their presence? If so, the clerk will take the call. With 46 members in the chamber and a quorum being present, the Senate of Maryland remains in session. We'll start with Senate third reading calendar number 64. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 613, Senator Brooks, Electricity, Community Solar Energy Generating Systems Program and Property Taxes.
Senate Bill 613 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 34 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 613, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 647, Senator Carrozza, State Board of Pharmacy, Board Membership, Delegated Pharmacy Acts, and Sunset Extension.
Senate Bill 647 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 647, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 796, Senator Carrozza, Wicomico County Sunday Hunting and Archery Hunting Safety Zones.
Senate Bill 796 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 796, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 824, Senator Carrozza, Worcester County Natural Resources Hunting.
Senate Bill 824 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 824, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 970, Senator Smith, Fire Protection Prevention Sprinkler Systems Requirements, Melanie Diaz Sprinkler Saves Lives Act.
Senate Bill 970 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. 42 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 970, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. All right, let's go to unfinished business. This is Senate third reading calendar number 10. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 124, the Speaker, mandated reports revisions.
House Bill 124 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 124, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 152, Delegate Wells, Department of Agriculture, Urban Agriculture Grant Programs, alterations.
House Bill 152 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 152, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 273, Delegate Alston, Health Occupations Environmental Health Specialist revisions.
House Bill 273 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 273, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 492, Delegate Chisholm, Anne Arundel County School Vehicles, duration of operation.
House Bill 492 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. 46 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 492, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 516, Delegate Love, Agriculture, use of antimicrobial drugs, reported deadlines.
House Bill 516 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 516, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 525, Delegate Guyton, Outdoor Preschool License Pilot Program Establishment.
House Bill 525 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 525, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 573, Delegate Boafo, Maryland Higher Education Commission Access to Mental Health Advisory Committee Establishment.
House Bill 573 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 573, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 686, Delegate Queen, Financial Regulation, Modernization, Licensing of Non-Depository Institutions, and Elimination of Branch License Requirement.
House Bill 686 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 686, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed.
Mr. President?
Yes, Senator from the 27th.
Thank you. Could I be recorded in the green for House Bill 152?
Any objections? Green on 152. Without objections, so ordered. To calendar number 11. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 717, Delegate Bagnall, State Board of Nursing Peer Advisory Committee's Scopes of Practice and License Requirement.
House Bill 717 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 717, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 785, Delegate S. Johnson, Health Insurance Step Therapy or Fail First Protocol and Prior Authorization Revisions.
House Bill 785 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 75, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 886, Delegate Ampry, Baltimore City, 40th District, Alcoholic Beverages.
House Bill 886 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 886, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 905, Delegate Heinbaugh, Garrett County Alcoholic Beverages Act of 2023.
House Bill 905 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 905 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1150, Delegate Queen, Commercial Law and Financial Institutions Credit Regulation Shared Appreciation Agreements.
House Bill 1150 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1150, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1151, Delegate Bandari, Health Insurance Reimbursement for Services Rendered by a Pharmacist.
House Bill 1151 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1151, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1244, Delegate Attar, Maryland Holocaust Remembrance Day.
House Bill 1244 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1244, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1272, Delegate Bagnall, Maryland Insurance Commission Enforcement, Specialty Mental Health Services and Payment of Claims, Sunset Extension.
House Bill 1272 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1272, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Let's go to third reading calendar number 13. This is a consent calendar. Clerk will read the calendar.
Third reading House Bill calendar number 13, consent number 3.
All right, Senators, these are House bills on third reading for final passage. Please take a look at the bills. Are there any bills that Senators wish to separate and vote separately? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, bills on consent calendar number 3 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. We've got another one. This is calendar 14. Clerk will read the calendar.
Third reading House Bill calendar number 14, consent number 4.
All right, Senators, these are third reading House bills. Any bills that Senators wish to separate out? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, House bills on consent calendar number 4, having received a constitutional majority, are declared passed. Let's go to calendar 15. Clerk will read the calendar.
Third reading House Bill calendar number 15, consent number 5.
All right. These are House bills on third reading for final passage. Any separations? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, House bills on consent calendar number 5, having received a constitutional majority, are declared passed. Calendar number 16.
Mr. President.
Oh, yes. Chair recognizes the Senator from Baltimore City.
Thank you. Could I possibly be recorded in the green on consent calendar number 4?
Number 4, in the green. Any objections? Without objection, so ordered. All right, calendar 16. Clerk will read the calendar.
Third reading House Bill calendar number 16, consent number 6.
All right, consent calendar number 6. These are House bills on third reading for final passage. Senators, please take a look. Any bills that Senators wish to separate? If not, We have to make sure on that House Bill 774 that we get a copy of that one to our former colleague. All right, any further? The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, House bills on consent calendar number 6, having received a constitutional majority, are declared passed. Calendar 17. Clerk will read the calendar.
Third reading House Bill Calendar number 17, consent number 7.
All right, these are House bills on third reading for final passage. Any separations? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, House bills on consent calendar number 7, having received a constitutional majority, are declared passed. Let's go to calendar number 18. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 102, Delegate Stein, Real Property Actions for Possession, Pet Protections.
House Bill 102 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 102, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 339, Delegate White, Maryland Lynching Truth and Reconciliation Commission Reporting and Sunset Extension.
House Bill 339 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. 46 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 339, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 382, Delegate Kipke, Maryland Department of Health and Prescription Drug Affordability Board, Managed Care Organizations and Prescription Drug Claims Study.
House Bill 382 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 382, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 429, Delegate Charles, Procurement Improvement Council Membership and Duties.
House Bill 429 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 429, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 486, Delegate Attar, Task Force to Study Non-Public Student Bus Transportation.
All right, House Bill 486 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 486, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 565, a Washington County Delegation, Alcoholic Beverages, Class 9 Limited Distillery License, Self-Distribution.
House Bill 565 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 565, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 673, Delegate Adelson, Maryland Transit Administration Fair Price Requirements Alterations.
House Bill 673 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 36 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 673, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 763, Montgomery County Delegation, Montgomery County Collective Bargaining for Sheriff's Office Employees, Binding Arbitration Procedures, MC 13-23.
House Bill 763 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. 46 votes in the affirmative. House Bill 763, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 764, Montgomery County Delegation, Montgomery County Housing Opportunities Commission Collective Binding Agreement Implementation Impasse Arbitration, MC 10-23.
House Bill 764 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 764, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed.
Mr. President?
Yes, Senator from
Could
District
I
6.
be from green to red on HB 673, please?
673, green to red. Any objections? Without objection, so ordered. Senator from the 42nd.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to be recorded in the red on House Bill 525.
525 in the red. Any objections? Without objection, so ordered. Senator from District 1.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 673 would like to be recorded in the red.
673 in the red. Any objections? Without objection, so ordered. All right, let's go to calendar number 19. Clerk, read the calendar.
Third reading House Bill calendar number 19, consent number 8.
All right, these are House bills on third reading for final passage. Any bills that senators wish to separate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, House bills on consent calendar number 8, having received a constitutional majority, are declared passed. Let's go to calendar number 21.
Third reading House Bill calendar number 21, consent number 9.
All right, these are House bills on third reading for final passage. Senators, please scan through the list. Any bills that senators would like to separate? If not, the clerk will call the roll. Oh, one moment. Was there? No? Any separations? Any separations? Double check. Chair recognizes the senator from District 38.
I'll separate out HB 1149.
1149, 1149. All right. Any further? Any further? All right. Let's take up the calendar, but not 1149. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, House bills on consent calendar number 9, but not 1149, having received a constitutional majority, are declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1149, Delegate Pena Melnick, Medicaid Waiver Programs, Waitlist and Registry Reduction, and the WAIT Act.
All right, House Bill 1149 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion?
Mr. President?
Yes, Chair recognizes the senator from Montgomery County.
I just wanted to thank this body for passing the cross file. This is going to make a big difference in people's lives. It's not adding any extra money to the budget, but what it's doing is last year this body unanimously passed the End the Wait Act, which allowed a number of waiver programs to get off waiting lists into service. We had put money in the dedicated purpose account, and it was clearing up the autism waiver, getting people into the services, but inadvertently, because we needed legislation to do it, it didn't allow the other people that were mentioned in the End the Wait. So this is really going to change people's lives for the better, and I just really appreciate the body supporting this, and I'm proud to.
On House Bill 1149, any further discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1149, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. I think I've gotten out of order here, but that's all right. Let's go to number 23.
Third reading House Bill calendar number 23, consent calendar number 10.
All right, senators, these are third reading House bills on Third reader, final passage. Any bills that senators wish to separate? All local. If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, House bills on consent calendar number 10 have received a constitutional majority, declared passed. All right, let's go to third reading calendar number 29. We have amended bills here. 29. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 246, Delegate Harrison, Alcoholic Beverages Class 4 Limited Winery License, Food Service.
All right, House Bill 246 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 246, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 550, the Speaker, Maryland Energy Administration Programs Modification, Clean Transportation and Energy Act.
House Bill 550 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 37 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 550, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 587, Delegate Bridges, Baltimore City Alcoholic Beverages Class A-7 Beer, Wine, and Liquor Licenses.
House Bill 587 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 587, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 693, Delegate Kipke, State Board of Pharmacy Board Membership, Delegated Pharmacy Acts, and Sunset Extension.
All right, House Bill 693 is on third reading for final passage. Senators, this is an emergency bill. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 44 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 693, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 784, Prince George's County Delegation, Prince George's County Alcoholic Beverages Class B Beer, Wine, and Liquor Licenses, Inspection, Penalties, and Worker, PG 302-23.
House Bill 784 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 784, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 825, Prince George's County Delegation, Town of Forest Heights, Prince George's County Urban Renewal Authority for Blight Clearance, PG 410-23.
House Bill 825 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 825, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 909, Delegate Holmes, State Commission of Real Estate Appraisals, Appraisal Management Companies, and Home Inspectors, Sunset Extension.
House Bill 909 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 909, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Senator from District 1.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 550, would like to be recorded in the red.
550 in the red. Any objections? Without objection, so ordered. Senator from District 12.
House Bill 693, would like to be recorded in the green.
Normally the last one, we must have jumped the gun on it. All right. 693, all right, in the green. Any objections? Without objection, so ordered. Okay. All right, let's go to calendar number 25. Clerk will read the first bill.
Bill 26, Delegate Bagnell, Health Occupation Psychologist Licensure Qualifications.
House Bill 26 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. 46 votes in the affirmative. House Bill 26 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 30, Delegate Stein, Environment On-Site Wastewater Services Board Fees and Penalties.
House Bill 30 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 45 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 30 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 161, Delegate Corman, Northeast Maryland Wastewater Disposal Authority Evaluation.
House Bill 161 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 161 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 172, Delegate Care, Health Occupations Licensed Athletic Trainers Dry Needling Approval.
House Bill 172 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 44 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 172 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 234, Delegate Tavares, State Board of Chiropractic Examiners Disciplinary Actions.
House Bill 234 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. 46 votes in the affirmative. House Bill 234 having received a constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 406, Delegate Love, Hunting, Snares, Traps, and Other Similar Devices Identification Requirement.
House Bill 406 is on third reading for final passage. Chair recognizes the senator from the 37th District.
I realize this is a day late and a dollar short on this bill because it's passed both chambers. I've spent the last better part of a week trying to get verification, clarification on some of the terms in this legislation. There hadn't been a single vote against it. I'm going to vote against it when the bill comes up. There is a huge, Mr. President, there is a huge understanding gap. There are a lot of people out there that believe a certain thing about this legislation. They don't understand how it's going to apply to them. And getting through that miscommunication, trapping is a very interesting trade. In our district, we have a celebration. It's called the Great Outdoor Show, which is focused around muskrat trapping and heritage exchange, where people come up from Louisiana. This is a dying breed. It is not something that people are going into muskrat trapping. Trapping had a huge place, and you can see right now with the problems we have with disease spread, raccoons doing damage, things like that. But in essence, there are a group of older trappers that don't understand how this is going to affect them. And in this body, it probably doesn't matter to the members sitting here today, but these older gentlemen and ladies, they set over 1,500 traps. And they don't do it for a huge financial gain. And there should be concern. I expect there will be legislation again next year to address some of this, but it's going to negatively impact them and perhaps end their trapping. So thank you.
Thank you, Senator. I was wondering if it was the muskrats. Turns out it is. All right. Chair recognizes Senator from the 29th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd just like to clarify a couple things that were said when we talk about this. The right to hunt, fish, and trap is an important part of Maryland's culture and their tradition. But with that right comes the duty to do so in a very responsible and ethical manner. And that's what this bill does. This bill requires that the traps that are out there be tagged. Just no different than when we go by a crab pot out in the Chesapeake Bay, it's got a tag on it. We know whose it is. And I think that we worked with the department. The department has opportunities in this bill to work with the trappers. And when I went to a national convention to meet with the trappers about this, they pointed out that Maryland was the one who didn't have trap tags like so many other states. And that's why this bill is important, and we're working on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. All right. House Bill 406, third reading, final passage. Any further discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 40 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 406, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 66, Delegate Otto, Worcester County Natural Resources Hunting.
House Bill 466 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 466, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 683, Delegate T. Morgan, Natural Resources Apprentice Hunting License Alterations.
House Bill 683 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 683, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. All right, last thing we'll do today is going to be the report from Committee on Judicial Proceedings, report number 36. Clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 1, Delegate Wilson, Civil Actions, Child Sexual Abuse Definition, Damages, and Statute of Limitations, the Child Victims Act of 2023, favorable.
Chair recognizes the chair of the committee as the floor leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. This bill, House Bill 1, is in the same posture as the bill we passed earlier, Senate Bill 686, and it was a subject of significant debate a few weeks ago. This bill allows survivors of child sex abuse to seek civil justice. And Mr. President, if we go ahead and pass this today, it'll coincide with the release of the Attorney General's report of sex abuse in the Archdiocese of Baltimore that highlights and outlines the 600 children over a course of 80 years that were abused, that this bill could conceivably help and others like it. Obviously, it's not about the Archdiocese, but access to justice. I do, in particular, want to just thank Chairman Wilson, who has been I've demonstrated courage that's been unparalleled that I've never seen in politics or in government before. If you have a moment to do so, I would go and look back at his testimony that he provided a few weeks ago on this bill. Just unparalleled courage, and his tenacity in sticking with this issue over the course of the years has been amazing, and is literally the only reason that this bill is here before us today. And so I want to thank Chair Wilson for his courage and for his work in getting this done. Mr. President, with that, I'd ask for the adoption of the favorable committee report, and I'd ask if we could.
Well, let's take up the report first. On the report, any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, House Bill 1 is ordered passed to third reading. Chair recognizes Chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would ask that we suspend the rules to have 2 readings in one day. Our Senate counterpart has moved forward in the House. Again, Chairman Wilson has worked tirelessly over the course of years, and I want to give him the respect of making sure that the House bill passes first.
All right. The question is, the Senator has moved to suspend the rules for the purposes of hearing the bill 2 times on the same day, Rule 24. Are there any objections to the Senator's motion? Without objection, the motion carries. Rules having been suspended, House Bill 1 is now before the Senate again on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? Chair recognizes the Senator from Montgomery County has 2 minutes to explain her vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, if you haven't seen the Netflix series called The Keepers, I encourage you, after we adjourn. It is mind-blowing, it is heartbreaking, and it is inspiring, and it also features the sponsor of this bill, the leader that the chair of JPR referenced. It's I think 7 episodes, and I really commend it to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. All right, any further senators wish to explain their vote? If not, our clerk will take the call. With 42 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Chair recognizes Senator from the 37th District.
I'd like to be recorded in the green for House Bill 30.
House Bill 30 in the green. Any
Please.
objections? Without objection, so ordered. All right, senators, we're going to call it there. I'm going to leave some time before 4 o'clock for committees to meet if they need to. Are there, well, it's soft for, do the best we can on this happy Passover day. Let's start with.
Well, before we do committee, can I just do a quick announcement? We have a young gentleman who's shadowing
Of
me
course,
for
please.
today, Hansel Suther, a 9th grader from Clarksburg High School, a constituent of the majority leader. And before he left, I wanted to acknowledge him, so give him a warm welcome from our Maryland Senate.
Welcome. Hope you enjoyed your time so far. All right, committee announcements. Chair recognizes the Chair of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, Senate Finance will meet at 2:30 today for a voting session.
Excellent. 2:30? 2:30. All right. Chair of Education, Energy, and the Environment.
Yes, similar to Education, Energy, and the Environment, we'll meet at 2:30 for a voting session.
All right. Budget and Tax.
Thank you, Mr. President. At 2:30, we'll take up the capital budget.
All right. 2:30. Capital Budget. Almost there. Judicial Proceedings.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Judicial Proceedings Committee will meet at 3 p.m. for a voting session.
All right. Excellent. 3 p.m. Any further announcements, delegations? Yes. Nope. Any further announcements? Chair recognizes Senator from District 11.
Would it be appropriate for a point of personal privilege right
Senator
now?
may proceed.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Tonight, many of us are going to be celebrating the first night of Passover. Tomorrow night, the second night of Passover. We are commanded to relive our experience in slavery, in bondage in Egypt, and that passage out of Egypt, and we are commanded to pass on that story to our next generation and for all to come. And it just felt appropriate that we just took a vote on House Bill 1 and the Senate counterpart. This is a long time coming for so many people in our communities who have really experienced the worst possible kind of trauma that they could have experienced. And it just feels like a momentous day to be able to have that report released. And I just want to commend the difficult work that the Judicial Proceedings Committee did this year in passing that bill. So thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you for that note. Do have another less momentous note, except I think the Chair of Finance will be maybe as happy or as pleased. So someone has said that there's cell phone service issues in the Miller Building. That's the rumor. Our new head of information systems, Gene Bryce, has been working tirelessly to try and figure out a solution. I am very pleased to report that one of the extenders has now been installed on the first floor of Miller, and initial reports are that there are now, quote, 4 bars of service. So the extenders to the other floors are on their way and will come soon. So 4 bars. So just on the first floor for now. The extenders are coming. We're coming up. What? It's gradual, slow, temper expectations, right? It's just, so now you can just walk down 2 flights of stairs, first floor is well covered. All right. Any further business before we adjourn? Yes, Chair recognizes the Senator from Baltimore City.
Thank you, Mr. President. Could the Baltimore City delegation meet briefly in the back at the end of session? Thank you.
In the red room?
In the red room?
The silver room,
Silver room?
whatever in the hall. All right. Excellent. Any further announcements? If not, let's do a quorum call before we adjourn.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their presence? If so, the clerk will take the call. With 46 members in the chamber and a quorum being present, the Senate of Maryland remains in session. Chair recognizes the Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate of Maryland stand adjourned until Thursday,
April 6th at 10 a.m.
10 a.m. without objection. Have a phenomenal evening and happy Passover.